Cavosa Excavating is a family-owned and operated company specializing in the installation of Title V septic systems. Cavosa Excavating is one of the largest septic system installers on Cape Cod. Whether it's upgrading your current system or installing a whole new system, Cavosa Excavating can do the job. Cavosa Excavating, 508-563-5530.
Nestled in a classic New England setting amid 200-year-old elm trees and charming colonial homes, stately sea captains' homes, and charming Cape Cod salt boxes, Shoreway Acres is a graceful blend of Cape Cod's past and present. Shoreway Acres, proud sponsor of Falmouth Community Television.
Good evening, all, and welcome to the open session, phase 2 of our meeting tonight. And I would ask you to join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you have cell phones, I would ask you to either put them on vibrate or turn them off. If you wish to record the meeting, you can do so. And I don't see anybody here with a television camera, so you don't have to get permission to tape the meeting. We just finished an executive session, and we are now in open session, and at the end of this meeting, we will go back into executive session to take up the last item on our agenda, which is collective bargaining. And that deals with all of the town unions, and I will read them in case you haven't seen the agenda. We're going to take up the Police Patrolmen's Federation, the Police Superior Officers Association, Firefighters Local 1397, Public Library Association, Mass Laborers District Council, DPW Mass Laborers District Council, Local 1249, AFSCME Council 93, Local 1636, FEA, Custodians, Food Service, and Secretaries. So now we have a very happy occasion tonight. We are going to honor a number of volunteers from the Upper Cape Regional Technical School who have contributed their time and skills and energy into helping us complete the bath facilities, or the bathhouse at Silver Beach. And Don Hoffer is here, the superintendent of beaches, and I would like Don to join me at the other microphone. And Peter Connerty. And one of you will need to explain to our audience and the people at home exactly what these young people have accomplished for us.
Yes, it's great pleasure and great thanks to the Upper Cape Vocational Technical School. What these folks have done is they've completed the bath facility up at the Old Silver Beach, the resident side. They basically gutted the inside of the bathrooms, replumbed it, redid the piping inside the walls, redid the bathrooms, the urinals, the sinks, and also in the concession stand they did the water heaters. And we put in water meters to monitor the water this summer. And this is all in lieu for a new design of the septic system for that facility. We have to get flows for that facility. So the Upper Cape really stepped up and showed their colors, and I'd like to congratulate them very much.
Thank you, Peter. And first off, we would like to have their instructor, Michael Carrier, come up if you would, if you are here. Hi, Michael. Good. Anything you want to tell us about your part of the project?
I'd like to thank Mike.
Can you come up here?
Absolutely. I thought I could talk loud. So.
Well, people at home need to hear you too.
Oh, that's good to know. Hi. I'd like to just thank my supervisor, Jim McHugh, who's the construction supervisor. He's the one that got this rolling. He met with Peter and Don and got this going, and we were just very pleased to be able to be part of it. And I think the kids, they're a great class. They've done a great job, and we've got another day or so to completely finish the job and get it tested out. But they've worked hard. I think they've learned a lot. It's something that they, as juniors, they wouldn't have experienced this until probably next year as seniors. So they've got a little bit of a jump on what's going on. So I think they've taken advantage of it. They've worked hard, and I think the work speaks for itself. So pleased to do it. I'm glad we could be involved.
Great. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Yeah, the first student is Tyler Derby. There you go.
This is Tyler Derby from Bourne, Massachusetts. And we just want to thank Tyler and his partners for a wonderful job. This certificate of recognition. Congratulations.
Justin Collimore. And Justin is from Bourne, and we congratulate you on a job well done, and we're so pleased with the work you have done.
By the way, all the certificates read volunteering your time and skills to the town of Falmouth for the purpose of modernizing the bathroom facilities at Old Silver Beach. Congratulations. Thank you. Great job.
Mason Nix.
Mason couldn't be here today. Sorry, he had driver's ed. I know, what's more important?
That's right, that's pretty important.
By the way, Mason is from Wareham. I'm reading off the towns these gentlemen come from, and ladies.
That's okay, thank you.
You can take that.
I will, thank you.
Okay, Christopher Gelson.
Good job. Christopher is from Bourne. Thank you very much. Timothy is also from Bourne. Congratulations.
Benjamin Farrier.
Benjamin is from Bourne also. Thank you very much. Good job, well done.
Corey Pontieri.
He is not here, but he's from Falmouth.
Yeah.
He's actually he's on co-op, so he's got a job with a plumber this week, so he's not even in school, so he wasn't even really aware of this. He was out with us for the first couple of weeks, and then he got the job, so he's kind of doing his thing right now. But he was helpful for the first week or two that he was involved.
Right.
I'll take his certificate.
Nope, that's not the one. Sorry, wait a minute. Sean Stickberg.
Congratulations. Thanks for your help.
And Caitlin Wagrum.
Caitlin's from Wareham.
Thank you,
Good job.
Caitlin.
Good job.
And finally, from the town of Falmouth and the Falmouth Public Schools is John Bordieri.
Let me read his certificate for lending his professional expertise, guidance, and supervision to the students of Upper Cape Cod Regional Technical School and the Beach Department for the upgrading and modernization of the bathroom facilities at Old Silver Beach. This gentleman was so helpful to us, and I really appreciate it. I know Peter does too.
Thank you.
If you're going, someday you can put that on your resume.
And I have photos if you guys would like to look at them, what they've done.
Wonderful, thank you.
I just want to say thank you to all of you. I think this is such a great example of what can happen when people work together. Not only from the people of Falmouth working together, but when they share these efforts with our neighboring towns. And it's really great, and we thank you so much. I think all the people who come to the bathhouse this summer, hopefully they'll know. Someone will tell them what a great job you did, but they'll know what a great job you did. So thank you and congratulations. A picture? Sure. If you want to kind of all kind of get together here. Projectors. And you too.
They need a wide angle lens. You laughed at that place, I don't know.
You've got a Windows on your forehead.
Thanks very much.
Wait till she comes by.
Yeah. Now, get it now.
Some people say, can this job be fun? Well, sometimes it really can be fun. And this is one time that it was. So next on our agenda, we have, if I can find it here, we have a continuation of a dog hearing. This is a dog hearing with John and Deborah Ewald. And it has been reported to us by our animal control officer that all the conditions that were required have been met. And we can now close the hearing.
So I move that we close the hearing.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. We want to thank.
Abstain. I was
Oh,
not
you were
present
there.
for the hearing.
And we want to thank it's Ewald, it's not Ewald, I didn't pronounce it correctly, I know. Looking at you, you reminded me. But we're very grateful to you for working with us on this, and we know how important it is that dog owners be responsible, and we care a lot about that, and you have been, and we appreciate it, and we're happy to be able to close the hearing.
Thank you.
Thank-
Apologize for all the trouble it will cause the town.
Thank you very much. Now, we're going to talk about the Falmouth Road Race, one of our major events in the town of Falmouth. And we have a request here from New Balance, Falmouth Road Race, Dave McGillivray, who is the director of the race, and Matt Auger is here. And one of you is going to speak to your request. Do you, David?
Okay, and then Scott Gelfi, the president.
Oh, and Scott Gelfi, too.
Yeah, wanna open it up?
Fine. Scott, very good.
Thanks. Madam Chairman, committee members, Mr. Suso, welcome to Falmouth. My name is Scott Gelfi. I am the president of the board of directors of the Falmouth Road Race. We're here with our entire board, Kyle Cavosa, Bob Antonucci, Donna Tochi, Karen Bissonette, Jeff Nickerson, and Jeff Cutter, and our current director, Dave McGillivray, and our assistant director, Matt Auger. And we're here to request permission to hold the Falmouth Road Race on August 12th of this year. And if we can answer any questions, we have Dave and Matt, and our committee is here. So, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Dave McGillivray, and first of all, I just want to say to all the citizens of Falmouth and everyone in this room how honored and privileged I am to assume the role of race director of this incredible world-class road race, the New Balance Falmouth Road Race. I've been in the event management business now for over 30 years. I've directed about 900 events around the world. I am the race director of a small race in Boston in 3 weeks, which I probably should spend some time on soon. But to have this race now and to sort of be responsible for the operational logistical side is, I guess they say sometimes it's a dream come true. So know how important this is to me to make sure this goes well. I want to express my public appreciation to those who have been at the helm over the last 39 years, in particular the Carrolls and the Shermans, who I know you all know very well. Rich Sherman's here. He has been a mentor. He has been a person who's really helped me along to understand how this whole event evolved and how it operates, and in particular to Matt Auger, who was the interim director last year. And you know, even though I've directed a lot of races around the country, I've never directed the Falmouth Road Race. So there's a learning curve there for me in particular, and I would ask for everyone's patience as I understand all the players and the nuances that are particular for this race. The committee for the race remains pretty much intact, which I'm very pleased with. Sometimes when a new guard comes in, there's a flight and people go, and you have to bring in all new people. That hasn't happened here. I don't know that one person who has been involved in this race over the last few years has left the committee. So that's a vote of confidence. I'm very, very pleased that that has happened. And our number one goal is to continue the great tradition of this race, to continue it at the highest level of road racing in the world. And also, and most importantly, to give back to the town of Falmouth. One thing that was told to me when I was asked to be the race director is, well, we don't want you to take the Falmouth out of Falmouth. I'm not going to take the Falmouth out of Falmouth. I want to enhance, I want to help, I want to be there. I always look at myself as being a caretaker. This race was here before I was around, and it'll be here way before I'm gone. I'm just helping to take care of it for a little while. So what we have accomplished to date, we had our official kickoff in December, very well attended. We had about 75 people there at the Coonamessett. We've been meeting with all the folks, again, previously involved and learning about the event. We've maintained the official office and rehired most of the staff from the past. We developed an organizing committee. We've already conducted our first meeting, and our next one is on April 2nd. We've developed start, finish, course, and medical committees with people who are really experienced in how to conduct an event, and again, coupled with some of the folks I might bring in to help. We have one of the most experienced race committees in the country. We met exactly today, in fact, with the Woods Hole Community Association earlier today, and we're developing a community outreach program. What I mean by that is when you put on an event, it's not just for the people running down the road, but it's about everyone that event is impacting and involving. I'm very, very particular about how the impact is to the community. I've reached out to a number of the neighborhood associations. I'll continue to do so. We won't ignore them. We want them in part of the planning process. We're not going to come at them at the last minute. We're going to be there well up front. It's only March, and we've already started meeting with all these different neighborhood associations. We've met with the Falmouth Police Department already, went through all the particular details of the race, everything from parking, road closures, bus loading, transportation, everything, and they seem pretty pleased with our plan to date. Matt has also met with, and I still need to plan to meet with the fire department. We've reviewed the whole parking plan, the transportation plan. It needs work. It'll get work, but that's in the pipeline. So lastly, what we're currently working on, we open registration in May, as has happened in the past. We will open registration for Falmouth residents only first, allow them to register in a week period of time, and then we'll open it up to the general public after that. We're looking at, again, things like the finish area, the ball field, how we can make that run more efficiently, safer. We're looking at contingency plans in case something were to happen weather-wise or anything-wise. We have Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. I always create operation manuals for events I produce, so everything logistically and operationally and technically involved in the race planning will be in that manual. We'll hand that out to all the public safety agencies, to the committee, so everyone knows exactly what to expect, and we eliminate any the element of surprise to anybody. As you know, this is the 40th running, so the anniversary plans, we're looking at what is best not just for the runners but for the community. We want to make this a community anniversary as much as a race anniversary. So we're looking at race weekend functions and everything else. The Elite Athlete Program, finally, again, this has been one of the most prestigious world-class races since its inception, since Tommy Leonard came up with the idea. And it is an Olympic year, so we'll lose some of the best going to London, but we still feel confident we'll have a world-class field. Give back, community give back. That's probably the most important thing with this race, not just taking care of runners for 7 miles, but what can this do for the community of Falmouth? And so that's what the board has been working really diligently on, is developing programs. How can we give back? That's the key objective of the race. The 90 charities that have been selected, and again, to increase the support to the town that Scott can speak on. So with all that said and done, again, I appreciate the opportunity to do this. I ask for your patience as I learn the system, learn the play, learn the event. I can hardly wait for 2013. So I'm going to get through this year first. And so as a result of all that, we're requesting permission to conduct the 40th running of the New Balance Falmouth Road Race on Sunday, August 12th. Same start, same course, same finish. It's not broken, don't fix it. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to mention, and I'm very grateful to you for having taken the time to meet with the police department. The chief is here tonight, and Captain Dunn, and I think having done that is very important to the public safety issues that always arise when you have that many people in town, and also with the fire department. I know I happened to see the Chief Sullivan today, and he too was very pleased that he had the opportunity to talk with you, particularly about any type of public safety issues that might occur that would require rescue of any kind. As you know from previous years, they have paramedics on bicycles, and that I think they're very comfortable with all of the plans around that. Anybody have any questions? Kevin?
I think it's important to note that this board has received quite a few emails and letters in the last couple of weeks about the size and whether this race is going to swell out of control. You know, this Falmouth road race has become, in some people's minds, a sacred cow in this community, one that even if you don't and are not a running enthusiast, realize that it puts Falmouth on the map. But we can also agree that there are some concerns for those folks who live in this community day in and day out. One of the variables that I, as well as I know that Chairman Flynn have worked on in the last week, was to make sure that the race didn't swell too big too fast. And one of the issues that originally came up was the issue on the application of 14,000 runners. After our investigation, I'd probably like someone to be able to you know, speak exactly to the numbers of runners that have been registered in the past. But it's my understanding that there was somewhere in the roughly 12,800 that were registered last year, and I'd like someone from the race to be able to do that. With that in mind, bearing the fact that last year we were a transition year, and Matt Auger was the acting road race director, I think it would be fair to say that we'd like to try to be able to be, at least on my part, status quo this year. Make sure that we don't go you know, grow to be too big a brother, too big a family, and that we can make sure that, in fact, all of the people we're talking to are actually we're going to be able to try to meet their needs. I happen to have the opportunity to listen to Mr. McGilvery speak at the high school early this year, and for those of you who have never heard him talk, he has quite a story to tell about how he became a runner and how he's been involved in road races. But that being said, I really don't know him. He doesn't know me. Falmouth doesn't know him, and back and forth. So I think it would be fair to say that, at least on my part, that if we put a cap on the runners at the 13,000 roughly that you had last year, moving forward, we'll see how we all get to know each other. At least that would be my point. I'd like to maybe hear from some of the public safety officials and folks here as well to see whether or not, you know, the proof will be in the pudding. That's the bottom line. And I know in the past there haven't been any concerns. I mean, it's disruptive, but it's one day a year. You know, I know it affects my business, but I understand that it's part of Falmouth. So that's my general
Kevin,
thoughts.
would you explain there's the number of 13,000, what that means?
Well, and I'd probably prefer that the actual road race does the folks from the road race. From what my understanding was, there was 12,800 runners that registered last year. But that doesn't mean that 12,800 show up at the race and actually finish the race. So maybe I could get someone from the road race committee to explain how many register and then how many actually finish or show up that day. And that would be a good rule of thumb. So if we cap, in my mind, cap the number at 13,000, I don't think that people would expect that 13,000 would actually run or finish the race.
So just quickly, in our industry, there are four numbers we focus on. One is how many people officially register for the race, how many people come into the expo and pick up their packet, how many people show up at the starting line, and how many people cross the finish line. Obviously, the ones that start in this race pretty much finish, and marathons, they drop out. So we have to plan for four different numbers. As far as the number you're referring to, my understanding, and I wasn't involved in the race then, that 12,800 participants registered officially for this race. Historically, this race has seemed typical to other road races, anywhere between a 12% and as high as a 20% no-show factor, meaning that people register and then they don't come to the race and run. As a result, the number you see crossing the finish line can be very different. In this case, maybe up to 2,000 people than how many people register. That trend usually is pretty consistent, and especially with a race like this that sells out really fast, well in advance. A lot of people are going to register in advance in order to reserve their spot, and then things change over the course of the next couple of months, and they're not able to come and run the race. So a lot of times we build that into our planning. If we know we can handle 11,000 people running down the road, we may take a few more than that in order to make sure that we get that 11,000 to cross the finish line. So we just want to make sure that we're all talking about the same numbers, that's all. And one last thing is that in terms of what you were just saying, Kevin, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's wonderful that you have that perspective, and most other people do too. I don't want to see this thing grow exponentially, on my watch the first year. And I want to get a sense for how it's run, and we're going to build in all these efficiencies and make it run much smoother than ever before with all the help that we have, with the help of Matt, and Rich Sherman, and the Carrolls, and we're all in this thing together. It's a road race, and it's Falmouth's road race, and we have to decide that this is good for the community and good for the runners. And if we work together as a team, it'll continue to be the best race in the world.
Okay, if we can all just pause for one moment. We have a scheduled liquor license hearing tonight at 7:25, and I want to read the hearing notice, and I'm going to ask that it be continued until we complete the discussion on the road race. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended, that DJ's Holdings, Inc., DBA DJ's Family Sports Pub, has applied for a new all-alcoholic common victular license to be exercised at 872 Main Street, Falmouth, Massachusetts. A hearing will be held in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, March 26, 2012, at 7:25 p.m. on the above application. So we will continue this and take it up again when the discussion and the vote is final on the road race. So back to the road race. Melissa.
Back to the question of numbers, and I don't know where the 13,000 number came from, but I just would like to ask, we've received a number of emails from people at the finish line. Obviously most of them are from there, but also from along the race route and at the beginning. And some of the numbers that I had seen was that, yes, in 2011, registered runners increased to 13,000, finishers was 10,900, so that falls into your 10% paradigm there. But this is an email from somebody who works at the beginning who mentioned that when you exceeded 11,000 runners back in about 2010, you had to stage a second start in Woods Hole. And I'm concerned about how massive the body is in Woods Hole, and how it, according to this person, the additional start began at the corner and went back beyond the aquarium. And I'm wondering, can Woods Hole accommodate more than even 12,000 runners in the beginning? I mean, I know a number of people who work down there and who live down there in the neighborhood. And I mean, I know that and I also know a lot of people in town who wish that they could get out of town during the race. I mean, I've worked at the finish line. I figure if you can't beat them, you join them. And the amount of people who walk by practically dying is awesome. It's incredible to be a part of the race like that. But I'm concerned about even this number 13,000 when at 11,000 you need to have a second start, and that the masses at the beginning go around the corner to the aquarium. Can Woods Hole actually
I'm going to
accommodate that?
I'm going to ask either the chief or Captain Dunn if you would like to respond to that.
Because 13,000 is, 20% more than 11 practically.
I'm sorry. I will defer to Captain Dunn. Captain Dunn has been the officer in charge of that event probably the last 25 years, Cap. And so he really has probably the most knowledge as far as from a public safety perspective. And I will turn it over to him for questions, but he really has it from soup to nuts. I know we had a very good meeting with the race folks, and they were very open to the dialogue and the discussions that we had. And but anyways, Captain Dunn, he really has the knowledge and experience.
Captain Dunn.
Question again?
Can Woods Hole handle that number of runners, and in terms of all the way down to the aquarium, whatever?
It's a public safety issue, and we have the manpower down there to do it. And the plan that they've worked out this year, I know they were talking another 1,000 people, if it was allowed, I guess. I believe we can. They have new plans in place. They've been with us for almost an hour, some of the ideas, new ideas that we're going to have a race director assigned right to the shift commander. So if there is an issue, something going on, we can handle that right away. We have not had any problems down in Woods Hole. We haven't really had any problems with the race since we stopped the drinking in the Heights years ago. Everything seems to run pretty smooth. There are some traffic issues with the Heights. People leaving later. we're gonna address them. It's no different than the 4th of July. At least this way here, we know how many runners we can expect, which is a little bit different than 4th of July. You don't know how many people are gonna come, or when you invite them to come watch the fireworks. So we can plan for this event.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, David?
Because I do the race, but there is always, they're broken up into corrals. The runners, there are different sets, and they don't all run off at once.
Oh, yeah.
So there are delayed. By the time I get to the Notsker, the clock already says 35 minutes, because that's how far. No, that's because everything, the clock stays constant, but you run off later.
Yeah.
So that's how, but when you go over the finish line with the thing on your shoe, it clicks your right time. But I'm just telling you that they're always delayed. You can't let everyone take off at once. And that's why they're delayed. I don't know if that helps your question,
Well,
but
it's just
it
that
wasn't
it's-
because of the amount of runners. Every year, that's the way it is. The elite runners take off first, and then we follow behind. But there's like 3 corrals, I think.
And I think what we're hearing is that the number of runners will not increase this year from the previous year. Is that what I'm hearing? That the number, there will be the same numbers, and then when you consider the numbers of people who don't show up, we want to keep it the same as last year and get a baseline so that, and with these new plans that you've worked out with both the fire chief and with Captain Dunn and the police department, there have been some modifications to the plans, and see how these work. We had a number of emails today from people in the Heights who were very supportive to the race. I didn't see them, but there were about 4 or 5 emails that came in today from people in the Heights, and the president of the Heights Association as well weighed in on that. So, any other questions of Captain Dunn? If not, we have Catherine Bumpus from the Woods Hole Village Association. Catherine?
Thank you. Thanks to Dave and Matt and Jim, who came and talked to another trustee and myself today. There was an application put into you guys that had a 13,000 number, and that raised a lot of red flags. I don't know about you, I don't do well with lists of numbers, so I have some graphics for you. The race has been growing over the past number of years. They've been running an average, last year was a big year. It was, and this is finishers, because finishers are what numbers I had that I pulled off the Falmouth Road Race website. So the runner's number is the actual number of runners that finished the race. Last year was a significant jump. If you look at the averages for the years before that, there was an 8,200 average. That would mean that if you were going off the averages from 1997 until 2011, this year, with the 20% increase of people who wouldn't show up, you would cap it at about 10,300 people. And that would be less than ran last year, but that would be an increase over all the previous years and running at about the average number. I appreciate we've got people who want to come and talk to the community, want to do outreach. It is a whole new group running the road race. I think that backing it down a little bit might not be a bad idea for everybody to get their feet on the ground for this year. If there's going to be a real push to address the car traffic coming to Woods Hole, which the village would appreciate, that would mean more buses, and that will have to be addressed. And while we really do welcome the outreach, I would get in trouble for saying this in Woods Hole, the race functions now. There are people who don't believe it functions, there are people who believe it's way too overwhelming, but we can't let it get too much bigger. And last year, I think, was really pushing it. So I'd suggest you dial it back even a little more than the suggested number.
Well, you have, you mean, this is 14, it's now 13, and you're suggesting less than 13?
Their application said 14 on it.
It's changed to 13.
So if it's changed to 13, I'm suggesting that you cap it at 10,300, which would be 20% over the average of the last years of 8,200 runners. If you average all the runners that have come since 1997, it's 8,220 runners per year. That's the average. So those are the people that finished. They want more entries than that. 20% more entries would be 10,300.
Melissa?
Thank you very much for these graphics, covering these numbers. Sitting here looking at the bar graph that we have with a nice slope drawn in, by the way. Thank you very much. I noticed in 2011, it looked like there were almost 11,000, or a little over 11,000 who finished the race, 11,000 runners. It looks like, according to your numbers here, and according to the email that I got, it was over 11,000 who had started also. The slope sort of aims for around 11,000 for a logical extension for 2012, and I'm thinking perhaps, you know, although what's suggested is 14,000, which is just, I mean, it's starting to look like a climate change curve to me. You know. I'm thinking maybe 12,000 might be a better number to cap it at than 13. It's just 1,000 less than what's been requested. But,
Melissa, the way it is they're looking at two different numbers. One is the number of people who get numbers.
Yes.
That's the top number. The next number is the number of those who finish.
I know.
Okay.
And I'm looking here at a graph that has the number of those who finish, and I'm thinking if 10% don't show up, don't finish out of 12,000, then we're still over 10,000 who finish, which is about where it was in 2011, and certainly much more than where it was in 2010. I am concerned about the beginning and about the race going all the way around the corner to the aquarium.
Kevin?
I can't envision it.
Madam Chairman, with all due respect, this is a race that last year had 12,800 entrants. For us to cut them back, which is, we're really looking at 13,000. I'm using a round number. They applied for 14,000, and I think it's fair to say we really want you to stay where you were last year at the 13,000, using round numbers. There was no outcry at the end of the race last year. There was no public safety issues. There were no fire issues. There was, and always will be, cleanliness issues. And I think those are the things that we need to continue to work at. But I don't want to say this in the politically incorrect way, but you give people enough rope to hang themselves. I think we've given this group 12,800 last year. I wasn't on the board. I don't know how it got to that.
Last year, excuse me,
wait a
last
minute,
year,
Heather.
they applied for 10,000 people.
Again, if you don't mind, I'm speaking for a minute. They had 12,800 that registered for the race. I don't know, I never saw the application, I wasn't on the board at that time. But they had 12,800 that applied and were given numbers for the race. I think it's fair to say that you move forward with the same number. That's my personal point. They came in and applied for 14,000. I say there's a middle ground here. Let's see how you do at the 13,000 and see if, in fact, you can continue, to be good citizens. That's really where I am. Again, keeping in mind the 20%. I don't know how you arbitrarily just say, well, let's go back down to 10,000. Go back is one thing. When you're going up, it's another.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may, the midpoint between 10,000 and 14,000 is 12,000. So,
I know it is, but
so there's a little slope here, and it points right to 12,000, and I think it's a nice even number, and especially if they went over by 2,000 plus applicants for last year's application, then I like 12,000. But
The only reason I know how many they applied for last year is I came in and I looked at the purple folder, and in the purple folder, the application had a number of attendees of 10,000 runners. So that is what they applied for last year. Clearly, more people finished the race than that last year.
Madam Chair, with all due respect, I think this board, for the first time this year, started limiting races with a number of participants. It had never been done before. This year, we started to put a number on races to be able to move forward. I don't think in any application, to my knowledge, ever before, there was a number to cap any race as we move forward. I think that, to err on the side of caution, we started to do that. So that's why, again, that I'm bringing that up tonight.
Andy? Are you? Okay.
I'm giving you my numbers.
Okay.
Adrian Dufresne speaking as a representative of Precinct 2 and a Falmouth Heights resident of approximately 60 years. We've come a long way from the original competitive road race between the two liquor establishments, which started some 40 years ago. I thank Catherine Bumpus for her concerns for the Woods Hole area, because I also have concerns for the Woods Hole area, but I happen to live in the Heights, which has a very similar concern. The beginning, the people have bussed into Woods Hole to begin the race. At the finish line, we not only have everyone that finishes, but all of their relatives and the traffic and everything that goes along with, let's go to the finish line. Falmouth Heights, as you know, is one of the most tightly developed communities in the town of Falmouth, with 3,000 and 5,000 square foot lots, very narrow streets. And I do have a serious concern of the burden that we have placed, or are placing, on our public safety people. It's okay, and I can give thanks to the police department and the fire department for saying, yes, we can handle it. But I think it's a tremendous impact on their ability to provide public safety. And as the licensing board, the permitting board, you people are the ones that issue the permit. If you look at the issues that you're facing, are we going to wait for a disaster to happen? Are we going to wait for a fire in one of the houses, or probably a heart attack in the Woods Hole area? I think it's time that we limit the number of participants, unless there's some strict financial need for an increase in number. I think there's a tremendous amount of people throughout the entire New England area that would like to come to Falmouth on Falmouth Road Race Day. Be honest with you, I have never seen a road race. I've lived in Falmouth Heights all these years. I stay away from the area. I'm kind of locked in on a very nice, quiet area, but I have sympathy for the people that live in that area. And I've watched it. I watched it as a beach commissioner 40 years ago, when I think I was the one that issued the first complaint about the finish line problems, which put the ball in the hands of the then Board of Selectmen, Department of Public Works and Public Safety, to handle what was going to be what we now are addressing today. I truly believe that 11,000 was a good number. Was the Board of Selectmen, did you issue the permit last year for 13,000 people? That was a question.
10,000.
You issued for 10.
We did not specify a number. The application said 10,000.
Okay,
We
so
did
the
not,
applicant.
as we are doing now, we
Yeah.
are specifying numbers.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
The application last year was for 10, which was a reasonable number in Falmouth Heights for a number of years. By their doings, they increased it to 13. Now we're saying, well, okay, well, that's a suitable number. You people make that decision. You make that decision on the number of people that would run in this race based on the impact in both Woods Hole, which you're familiar with, and Falmouth Heights. The Falmouth Heights residents, sure, we support the road race. I think it's a fantastic thing for the town of Falmouth. But I think you people have to draw the line before we have a serious problem in either one of those neighborhoods. And for that reason, I'm saying, draw the line somewhere. In talking to one of the board members a little earlier, said, we'd like to have 25,000. Well, I'm going to tell you, if we keep this up, we could reach that number very easily. Thank you for listening to me. I speak as a resident of Falmouth Heights and a representative of Precinct 2.
Okay, Nancy Hayward? Nancy Hayward.
My name's Nancy Hayward. I live in West Falmouth. I'm a mother and a grandmother. Our sons first ran in the Falmouth Road Race in 1983, when they were both in high school. It has been my impression for some time that there were about 10 or 11,000 people in the Falmouth Road Race. It's also my impression that the people who ran the Falmouth Road Race previously, I have no idea what came before the Board of Selectmen, but it's my impression that the people who ran the Falmouth Road Race before limited the number of acceptances at around 10,000 people. For the past 6 years, my husband and I have been supporting the Falmouth Road Race as sponsors. And that has been a very selfish reason, because when you supported the Falmouth Road Race, you got some numbers for runners. And that enabled our son, who lives out of town, and another son, it's a little unclear to me. I know because we have plaques that we have supported it for it's a nice mark. I can tell you for sure, we've supported it for 6 years. We've had people that have run other times than that. And I don't know what we're going to do this year. I don't know if we're going to support this. I have not seen the books about what's going on. I never saw the books before either. But I had much more friendlier feeling about the running of the Falmouth Road Race before all the current circumstances around the road race arose. Now, I will also speak for the last 6 years as the designated driver. These people who have to get themselves to Woods Hole have to get there. Now, I don't know what other people do, but I have been the driver who has come from West Falmouth to the Lawrence School to deliver 4 people. And that can be an interesting experience because you have to merge onto the highway, and sometimes that's more difficult than other times, but it takes time, and you have to get down there, and you have to get over to Lawrence School. Now, if I'm considering that, apparently I don't exactly know how many people were there, but when I heard from someone that it was 14,000 people, I thought, that's a 40% increase over 10,000. What does that mean for people trying to deliver their runners to Lawrence School? So, I personally, I would hope that 10 or 11,000 people would be permitted to register for this road race, because I think that's about what we've had. And I don't have exactly what the gentleman who's running the road race said, but I heard a sentence, maybe you have a recording, I heard a sentence or two in there that sort of implied, well, we'll try this year, and if it works, we'll go up. Anyhow, the other comment I would like to make is that there was some problem in the picking up of the numbers. For
Nancy,
the road.
can you move along a bit?
I will. This is the last comment I'm going to make, because the 2 female runners in our group, neither one of them got their correct numbers. Somebody else ran as a Hayward. One of them ran as Camille Hayward, and the other person ran as Peregrine Hayward. I don't know what my daughter-in-law and my granddaughter ran as. I don't know whose numbers.
Thank you for your comments, Nancy. And Mr. Northern, and then we'll hopefully wrap this up.
I live at Lakeview Avenue and Maya, so we do see the crush of the entrance. While we're going from a nonprofit to a profit, and while we're discussing the road races in general, and specifically this one, it may be well to consider what Mr. Dufresne has said. Those are very solid points as to the safety and the ability of the community to absorb that fantastic number. The arithmetic that Ms. Bumpus did seems to me to make solid sense. This is the first crack out of the box for these new people, the Falmouth New Balance. It's profit-making. I think
It's,
Falmouth
excuse me,
desires
it's not a for-profit, it's
It
a
is
non-profit.
not, I stand corrected then, excuse me. I do think we should at this time look at the date. I think that the shoulder season, September, is far more appropriate for this vast number of people. I think that we should change from the Lawrence School to the high school, which I think would adapt itself far better to the registration and transportation of people. And I also think that when it comes down to the overall picture, the community itself pays a price for it. And I think it would serve the community very well if the selectmen took a very strict look and restriction of numbers, because I think Ms. Johnson was absolutely correct. The implication here is that this race will grow. We're going to try it this year, and, well, we'll just take a look, and then maybe we'll kick it up a notch. And every year will be up a notch. So I would suggest that 10,000 and some of the points that I brought up and others have brought up be seriously considered. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to thank Ms. Bumpus for giving us these numbers, because one of the things that jumps out at me, her history goes back to 1997, and if you look at it for the audience and the public at large, in 1997 there was 7,700, it fell to 7,200, and these I assume are the finishers, the number of actual runners. Then it was 7,200, 7,400, 7,400, 7,400. Then it went to 8,000, 8,100, back down to 7,500, 8,200, 8,900, 8,700, 8,900. And then the last 3 years, we saw a jump to 9,600 and then 10,900. And if you graph it as she has done here, it seems there's been a rather sharp increase in the past couple of years in the number of runners. And I guess I'm tending, where I'm going with this is I'm tending to agree with Ms. Freitag that maybe we want to scale it back a little bit, because I have concerns that, and the statement was made that we'll see how this works and then maybe increase it next year. I guess I'm a little concerned that if we continue to increase it, it seems at this kind of a rate, we'll be at somebody said 25,000. I'm not sure if that's ultimately the goal here, but it seems that that's a steep increase in a short period of time. And Ms. Bumpus suggested 10.3. Ms. Freitag, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you suggested 11? 12? I think I'm inclined to go with 12 as opposed to 13, actually.
Yes, Bob Antonucci. Did you want to speak to us, Scott? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. And then,
my name is Catherine Scott. I'm a taxpayer and a property owner in Falmouth, and I also happen to live a block from the Lawrence School. So
can you speak a little louder to help?
I live a block from the Lawrence School, so I'm definitely in the staging area. So I share the concerns with the size of the race and the number of people pouring into that area. And but I also, as a taxpayer in the town, I am concerned about the relationship of the race to the finances of the race to the finances of the town. And it seems that the more people come, the more money the race makes. The race seems to make quite a lot of money. But the more people come, the more it's going to cost the town. I mean, all of these plans for policing and fire and everything else, it all costs money. And so I would like to see the town undertake a thorough cost-benefit analysis of the race to the town of Falmouth. I also am of the opinion that since there is a considerable amount of money in play, that more money should come actually to the town, and that what that money is used for should be decided by our elected representatives and not by a private group. So my concerns are, I'm not a runner. I don't know anyone who's a runner. I'm happy if, like, everyone's having fun, as long as it's, A, not causing a problem and not getting out of hand. But as a taxpayer, I think that we should really take a careful look at the financial aspects of the race. And another thing that I was kind of surprised at was to read the statement that the race board would be as transparent as possible in letting us know what they're doing, what their finances are, what their legal status is, et cetera, because as a nonprofit, they have to be completely transparent, and there's no choice about that. So I feel that first of all, I was very upset about this whole licensing issue. And I feel that the permission for this year should be with the proviso that any Falmouth businesses can use the name of the Falmouth Road Race as they please. I feel as though, if anything, Falmouth should be maybe charging this entity for the use of our name and not the other way around. And I also feel as though the town should really take a thorough look at this whole race before next year, and furthermore, that no final decision should be made until the Forms 990 have been filed for 2011, so we can get a clear idea of the finances of last year's race. And I feel that also all the expenses, et cetera, should really be itemized, because there are considerable expenses that are not described in detail on those 990s, which are open and free for the public to look at if you are so inclined. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Bob Antonucci?
Yeah, Bob Antonucci, Precinct 6, and a member of the Falmouth Road Race Board. We listened to all the concerns tonight, and we hear you. The reason I joined the board was for the same reason that everybody spoke tonight, the issue of transparency, the issue of being committed to Falmouth, and we've done that. I would really urge you to pass, if you could, the 13,000 cap. We did it last year, we'll do it again this year. We're not coming back next year for more growth at this time. That was just a comment that was made. You have the right to cap it every year. In terms of the finances, we support the entire cost of the race. There is no cost for police coming from the town, no cost for fire. I learned that very quickly. Any expense that's associated with this race is paid from the registration. In terms of transparency, we are transparent. There have been questions about that issue in the past. We're trying to correct that. We do file the 990s. Before I joined the board, I conducted a retreat for the board with advice from the Attorney General. We reviewed the requirements of the Public Charities Law about the 990s, and we're doing that. Tonight we met before this and again allocated the money back into the community. We're going to continue to do that. You'll see an ad placed at the end of each year now where our money goes. None of us are getting paid. None of us want to get paid. Dave is paid because and Matt are paid because they're our professionals. We're going to do the best we can for the town. I would urge you not to try to micromanage it. I'm not trying to do that as a board member, but we do hear the issues of growth. We hear the issues of Wood Hole. We understand that. But if you look at last year, I'm not a runner, it went pretty well, and we can build upon that. We have an expert here that runs the Boston Marathon, and having lived in the city for 10 years and watched what happens there, we hear the same kind of issues. Give us a shot this year. Try to let us do what we did last year. We'll come back to the board after the race before next year to give a report, and I'm going to be confident that with the leadership this year, we will give you a race that is second to none, and we'll try to do the best we can. It doesn't mean that problems aren't going to occur. Someone decides to do something to somebody's property, we'll correct it. So I'm just asking you again, please, to try to allow us to do it this year, get us on the right track, and let us move ahead. So thanks.
Thank you. We really don't have any time for any more public comment. We're way over our allotted time. But I would like to ask either the chief or the captain to comment on the fact that if there were 12,800 runners last year, is what I'm hearing. Can you explain from a public safety point of view, if there were 11,000 runners or 12,800 runners, how would that affect public safety and congestion, both Woods Hole and Falmouth Heights? Or is that I mean, how much of a difference does it make?
You know, we work with, we probably have around 40 police officers. We have all the key intersections. We have all of the issues that we need to take care of covered. As far as the number of runners, You know, we work in conjunction with the race committee. It's a matter of stringing them out. You know, if you've got an extra 500 or 600 runners, then you need more room. But everybody runs, everybody, you know, not much really changes. And I've seen it because as you go back a few years, as Brent did, you know, there were 8,000 runners one year. And last year, we probably didn't even feel the difference, to be honest with you, you know, for that whole race. And there was 10,000, what was it, 10,000? 10,300? So from a public safety standpoint, you know, our biggest challenge is clearing the heights out afterwards. And it's something that, whether there's 5,000 or there's 10,000, it's congested and it's a problem. But that's something that, you know, we're looking at a number of different angles this year. Maybe we could do some one-way traffic kind of stuff, get people over, you know, certain roads so we can help better control that. That's the biggest issue we have after the race, is getting people out of the heights. The Woods Hole issue takes care of itself. Everybody gets bussed in. It's very well organized down there. I think one of the big things, one of the big changes for us this year is that Captain Dunn will be in direct contact with the race director. And and we talked about sharing radio, so we have a communication system so we can work very closely together. That's the key. If we can coordinate, stay involved with them as far as advanced planning goes, then I really don't anticipate any issues. If you know, if something, and it's a race, anything can happen. Whenever you bring that many people together, whether it's 5,000 or 10,000. But as far as we don't feel the strain, we still you know, block the areas and cover the places that we have to. And if we have to do a little bit longer, because it takes the race a little bit longer, it's not, you know, we haven't seen, you know, a major impact in the last couple.
Do you have a different exit strategy this year in Falmouth Heights?
We're working at it.
You're working on it.
But right now, it's a secret.
Thanks,
But
Chief.
you'll know when it happens. I don't want to play our hand right now, but we're working on it.
Kevin?
Madam Chairman, I'd like to formulate a motion, and we'll discuss that. It's evident that there is some skepticism within the community, and there are some things that need to be worked on. And this is a large event, it always has been. And there is some caution from many folks that this event does not grow. We're hearing that loud and clear. Last year, the number of registered runners was 12,800. I'd like to make a motion that we cap that number of registered runners at 13,000, keeping in mind that they have anywhere from a 15 to 20% or 10 to 20% that actually do not run the race. So my motion would be that we'd approve the running of the 40th annual Falmouth Road Race with a cap on registered runners at 13,000.
Is there a second? I'll second it for discussion. And let's not take all night to discuss. Brent?
Madam Chairman, Ms. Freitag suggested 12,000. Mr. Murphy has suggested that we don't exceed last year's, but we've gone from 12,800 to 13,000. Why don't we just split the difference and call it 12,500 and call it a night?
How about we go to the 12.8 they had last year? We're horse trading. If that, I was just trying to use a round number, and if that's what we're doing. It's just like a liquor license. We bring someone in when they do something wrong. We bring a business in when they do something wrong. And again, I wasn't on the board when the application was, but we have started caps this year. I think it's fair to say that you let them do what they did last year, and then we evaluate this afterwards. What Mr. Antonucci had to say, the proof will be in the pudding. You know, folks have some skepticism about finances and things of that nature. Folks in Woods Hole have some skepticism on whether or not they can do as good a job with traffic and a better job than it has been done in the past. Not as good, a better job than it has been in the past. So I think it's fair to say the same number. So I'll amend my motion. Let me try it at the 12,800 runners. How's that? That registered the same as last year.
Okay, is there a second to the amended motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
If I may.
Sure.
I think one of the things that hasn't been discussed, and it was sort of touched on by Ms. Scott, you know, I understand, I guess, one of the things that hasn't been really spoken out loud, and one of the things that I think needs to be discussed, certainly by this board, is the question of what the Falmouth Road Race represents to Falmouth. Because the race itself obviously has a significant history, and it's a significant part of this town's history. But do we want the Falmouth Road Race to become the Boston Marathon? And when we talk about limiting numbers, it's not just in terms of crowd control and public safety, because I think from that perspective, our public safety officers, whether the police, fire department, I think they could probably handle it. I mean, they handle a town of 30-some-odd thousand on a daily basis. I think they can handle a crowd of 10 or 12 or 14,000 for a few hours. I think from the larger perspective, and one of the things that we need to have a discussion about as the year progresses, is how such a large influx of people has an effect on the town as a whole, in the infrastructure, on the quality of life, on the overall question of, and we've talked about it before in planning discussions, but I think it's something that needs to be discussed when we talk about events as well. Are we urbanizing Falmouth when we don't want to? And I think this is a discussion that needs to be had, because even if the race can handle 12 or 13 or 14 or 25,000, even if our public safety officials can do it, what does it do to the town of Falmouth during that weekend? And is that really what we want Falmouth to become?
Those are very good points, but I think on the other hand is what does it do for Falmouth in terms of the businesses, the bed and breakfasts, the restaurant, the motels, the hotels, the museums, the tours, all of that.
But when they're all
When you
filled to
say,
overflowing.
well, that's what you say. Maybe when, at some point, we ought to say, what does the road race look like for the town of Falmouth? What are the pluses and what are the negatives? And maybe that's something that we could work with them on over the coming year, so that we have a better idea of what the positives are, and if there are some negatives, how can we address the negatives? So I think you've made a good point. Kevin?
And I wholeheartedly agree with you, Brent. That if this board remembers that the town manager was charged with setting a policy for road races, this could be part of that broader discussion when we set that. One of the things that I don't want to lose sight of tonight when everyone leaves here is, until this year, there was never a cap on any event, meaning any road race in this community. We started capping them because we wanted to we have a cap on parking for the steamship authority in this community because of the exact same things, Brent, that you talked about.
Right.
So this is maybe an issue that we need to continue to have a broader discussion about. But this year, we actually have a cap if we vote it this way.
Okay, final?
Yeah, I'd just like the race committee to be mindful of that. Last year, their application was for 10,000. They registered 30% more, 10% more actually ran. So capping this at 12,800, please be mindful of that.
Okay, we have an amended motion of 12,800 and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And thank you all very much, and
Thank
good
you.
luck, and we look forward to working with you. Okay.
Did we do first the dog hearing or the?
No, we did the dog, we don't have
We
a
did,
dog
yeah.
hearing.
It was on that thing so long, I forgot.
Okay, now we have a liquor license hearing. You're welcome. Thank you, Andy. Okay,
You're never there, how do you know?
If you could kind of leave quietly, that would be really nice, so we could continue on with our business. We have a liquor license hearing, and we have an applicant for
Madam-
DJ.
Can I, before you?
Yeah, just.
Oh, I thought you already
Yeah,
read it into the
For
record.
DJ's Family Sports Pub, and we have an applicant, and before you begin, Selectman Murphy has a statement.
I'd like to make a disclosure that I'm the holder of an all-alcoholic seasonal liquor license. Thank you.
Okay?
Good evening. My name is Christine Janassa. I'm an attorney for DJ Holdings, Inc., who are applying for the liquor license. And I have with me tonight Dennis and...
Excuse me. Could you please hold down the conversation so we can, thank you, conduct our business? Go ahead.
With me tonight, I have the principals of DJ's Holdings, Inc., Dennis and Ethne Carlin, if you have any more specific questions, We're applying for a new alcohol license to be at 872 Main Street. It's the former Falmouth Grill. We have touched base with the board, building department, and as well as the Board of Health. So basically, if you have any questions for us tonight.
Well, just maybe if you could talk a little bit about some of the renovations, because we're all familiar with the current operation, or that was the current operation, and the one before that. So I think it might be helpful if you told us exactly what you have in mind for your interior, and the food, and whether it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or what have you.
Okay, well, it's going to be I'm Dennis Collin, I'm the owner of DJ's Wings, as we're known as. We're going to do a complete renovation. There's 157 seats. We anticipate having a 20-seat bar, 137 seats restaurant. We're going to have, our main thing is buffalo wings. We're famous for wings. We're going to have a pub-style menu, which we have brought with us to pass around if you'd like to see it.
That'd be nice.
Okay.
We always like to see what the menu is.
Right. We've been in business 23 years, so we've been doing this a little while. We're very excited to come to Falmouth. And if you have any questions, I can answer them for you.
Anybody have any questions? I think we've all had the opportunity to review your application, and we're familiar with the location. Melissa?
Have the issues with building permits, et cetera, been resolved?
They are in process. They had to do some preliminary permits first, which they have accomplished.
We have obtained a demolition,
Right.
discovery demolition, so we can get the raw space and see what we actually want to do.
They're proceeding through it, but they don't have the actual permit in hand, but they will. So it could be contingent upon receiving the building permit.
And also, they've maintained, or they've contacted the Board of Health?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
have,
Mhm.
we have.
Kevin?
Before I do a motion, just so you know, I don't know if you're familiar in this community, in the town of Falmouth, we require your entire staff who serves alcohol to be tips trained, so that is a requirement of the licenses that we issue in the town of Falmouth?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No problem.
So I'd like to formalize a motion, Madam Chairman, that we approve the application for a liquor license, common victual license, and that it be contingent upon at 872 Main Street, DJ's Family Sports Pub, and that it be contingent upon the successful completion of applications for building permits, food service permits, as well as an occupancy permit. So that would be my,
Second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? What, excuse me, unanimous. I didn't ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this license. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition? That's good. I thank you very much for being very patient and waiting a whole hour for your hearing. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Okay, the next item is we're going to interview some, there's this one too. We're going to interview for the Affordable Housing Committee. We have 2 vacancies on the Affordable Housing Committee, and we have 3 applicants. Annie Saganek. You have a,
Yeah, point of order, sorry. There's 3 vacancies. Ted Schmull was here, but he isn't here now, so. There's 3 vacancies on the committee, and I think you have 3 applicants before you.
oh, okay, the one I'm looking at says 2, but that's all right. You're right. I have 2 conflicting documents here, so I will work with the one that is more accurate. So we have 3 candidates, Alex Ziss, Eric Zettler, and Holly Wilson. So would Alex Ziss like to come forward and tell us why you are interested in this committee, if you would?
Thank you.
You know, that can be raised, actually. No, you have to, is it?
I'll just put my mouth closer to it.
Everyone's bending over trying to reach it, so. Thank Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have been interested in the issue of housing in several ways. First of all, I have served twice on the Falmouth Housing Task Force, and secondly, I've gotten involved with the Occupy Falmouth issue as a member of the steering committee, and we're very interested in housing, what's happened with housing. I've also attended a meeting in the state legislature of the 60-plus bills that are before the Housing Committee on various aspects of housing, and so I have sort of an overview of the issues. I also, as a resident of Falmouth for 23 years, am aware of some of the not only housing issues, but also some of the economic development issues, what's happening with the young people leaving Falmouth because there are not jobs, and because housing in Massachusetts, and Falmouth is no exception, is very expensive. So I would like to see Falmouth continue to thrive, but that includes not only what we do in housing, but what we do to make housing available for people who work in Falmouth to afford to live in Falmouth. So I have several perspectives on that.
Questions for Mr. Zis? There was an article in the Cape Cod Times, it was either today or yesterday or the day before, in the last 3 days, and it was about an event that occurred down the Mid-Cape to the Lower Cape, where a group of architects met with the housing groups on the Lower Cape, and they talked about how they could improve the design of affordable housing so that it actually blended in more with the community, and that the homes were designed in such a way that not only would they wouldn't stand out as being different from the homes around them, but also that they would be energy efficient, and that so that the long-term cost to the eventual homeowner would not be as significant because of the energy the energy products that we use. But I wondered about your thought about that, because sometimes town-owned land sometimes is often used for affordable housing, or a particular lot in a neighborhood, or one or two lots where 3 homes are built. And yet sometimes when they're built, they're not anything like the homes that are near them. So do you have any thoughts on design and compatibility and energy savings and all of that?
Not so much on design, but one of the questions I have is that most of the emphasis on affordable housing has been on 40B projects, and most of those seem to be apartments. And I saw in the report, now I know this report from on the affordable housing website is 10 years old, but it says that in one part of Falmouth, of the 90% of the homes are for senior housing or the disabled, and I think 36% in another district. So I think when we're talking about housing, we're talking about houses, apartments, and condominiums, places where people live. And I do think that any construction needs to be energy efficient, and I think that's true whether we're talking about apartment buildings or condominiums or houses. So I think that's a very strong point. But I also think that we need to take a look at housing in addition to the 40B, in addition to apartments. What are we going to do for what people need? One of the things we learned with the Falmouth Housing Trust, which I think has a wonderful mission, I think it has a problem with raising the funds, especially in this economy, is that when it has built homes, they have sold. They have found people to purchase them and who can afford them. And Annie Sagana can talk more about any of the recent efforts, because I have not been on the board for a couple of years. But I think that we need to take a look at the whole range of housing. But I certainly think that anything we do ought to fit into the communities, and ought to encompass several different kinds of housing, not just apartments.
Right. And I guess the same would be true for redevelopment as well, and not just new construction.
Yes.
Melissa?
Thank you for your application, Mr. Sis. You had mentioned in your opening remarks that you had gone up to the state legislature to listen to some hearings on housing.
I was there for four hours.
And what did you learn that you might bring back to Falmouth, if anything?
Well, the main reason that I went is because as a member of the steering committee of Occupy Falmouth, they were concerned about the issue of foreclosures and evictions and what's being done in the legislature. And at one point, early in the meeting, I got there early, I thought I was the only non-lawyer in the room. But there was a lot of interest in the issue of ownership, who actually owns title, and that has to be resolved in any foreclosure or eviction hearings. There was a lot of discussion about evictions from rental properties and what to do about the rights of tenants, but also the rights of landlords. And I think that's one of the issues that we would have to be concerned with here, is making sure that if we build housing, we have to make sure that the people who occupy them, who buy them when they're to be purchased, or who occupy them as the renters, can afford them, that they in fact are affordable, and that there's a means for this. But the committee seemed to be more inclined. I think of the 63 bills, I think 9 of them were specifically on the issues of foreclosures and judicially mandated foreclosures. That's one of the things that unfortunately is happening in Falmouth. I think there was something like more than 100 over the 2-year period of foreclosures in Falmouth, and I think the number has increased over the last couple of months. And we know what some of the issues are involving the banks and the big banks and the whole financial collapse and what the banks' involvement are. But I think that in one way that has made some of the vacancies possible and maybe some properties more affordable. But again, it's a question of who's going to be buying them and if there's going to be proper financing for them. So I think they're all related.
Thank you.
Brian?
I would just like to take a moment to thank you for your resume. It's always good to get more background, more information than just what our basic application offers. So, and in other respects, you've answered my questions, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I guess not. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And our next candidate is Eric Settler. Eric, I know you're here. And maybe you can start out by telling us of your interest in the Affordable Housing Committee.
Thank you. Eric Settler, 63 Glenwood Avenue. My interest is relatively recent. I've been a landlord for quite a few years, and a lot of the people that I rent to, I guess, are not necessarily affordable housing candidates, but I would call them limited income, a lot of students and people in the scientific community. And so I'm aware of the need for affordable housing in town. And then more recently, I got a little more interested because our neighborhood, as many would probably know, has been sort of lobbying for affordable housing on the town-owned lot on our street. So I got more involved and met Annie Saganek and Ted Schmoll, and working a little bit with those groups, I was always impressed with, they seem to be groups that work well together. They listened to us as neighbors. They were concerned about, they sort of came at it from the point of view of, let me imagine that this is my neighborhood that this is coming into. And that impressed me, and I think that I'd be pretty much a neophyte. I'm not that familiar with affordable housing issues, but I'm a quick study. I think I have a pretty logical mind, and I think I'm pretty good at working with other groups of people. So it's an area I'd like to learn more about and help out in any way I could.
If you remember the question I asked or the comments I made about the architects trying to help those people like yourself,
Yeah.
if you are appointed tonight, who work in the area of affordable housing, to really begin to look at it in terms of the whole neighborhood and the community, and not just as a housing project.
Yeah, I
So-
think that affordable housing shouldn't stand out as affordable housing. It's a house in a neighborhood. It happens to be directed at people of limited income. It should fit in architecturally, and I think any neighborhood that has a variety of income levels and experiences is going to be a richer neighborhood for everybody, it's not just an opportunity for the people that are moving into the affordable housing, it's also an opportunity for the neighborhood to, diversity is good. So yeah, I think that the architecture and the people that live there should fit into the community.
Brian?
Being new to this subject, it always seems like affordable housing is a onesie-twosie proposition. If you look at the progress that we've made, at least as far as I can remember, there's a house here, there's a house there, and yet the state is requiring us, and the need is such that we really need to be doing a dozen here, a dozen there. What kind of ideas do you have to try to accelerate the pace and to actually get us to a level where there's a sufficient amount of housing?
Yeah, I don't have a good answer. I think it's a difficult question. I think as the size of a project increases, it becomes more difficult for everyone, for getting the neighbors' approval and everything else. Something that I've heard other people mention, I don't know if it's practical, how practical it is, but I suspect that, for instance, some of my rental properties, I suspect probably could be somehow designated as affordable housing, and I would be amenable to that if there was a mechanism. I know what the rents are for affordable houses, and I can tell you that a lot of my rents are at or below those levels. So financially, they're affordable housing. However, they're not on your books for the town of Falmouth as being an affordable house, even though I've been renting them at those rates for over 10 years. So I don't know if that's an option to try to incorporate some existing rentals. We have to do everything we can, build new ones, onesies, twosies, maybe some bigger ones where it's appropriate. But I think there might also be other mechanisms for increasing the number without necessarily building new projects.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you.
And our third candidate is Holly Wilson. Hi, Holly. So I'll ask the same question. You can maybe tell us about your interest in the committee and some of your experiences and how they will be helpful to the committee.
Yeah, I've been interested in affordable housing most of my adult life because most of my adult life it has escalated in huge ways. And I have been fortunate to have bought and sold a few homes during the housing bubble, and so I was able to afford to come back to Falmouth after living up in Boston for about 27 years. We have a huge retirement community here, and that's really made a lot of houses out of sight for the working class, teachers, policemen, firemen, that sort of thing. We also have a big need for elderly people to be able to live here after they can't afford to stay in their homes, and that means we need a workforce to take care of them. And with the baby boomers coming up into that category, I know we're going to be in trouble all over the whole country. So there's a lot to be looked at and a lot to be done. I have been attending the Affordable Housing Committee meetings here, particularly the Roundtable Subcommittee, for the last couple of months, and I've learned a lot about what's going on in Falmouth in the past, what's looking towards the future. I'm on the learning curve. And I am worried about what goes on with the young people here. I saw it happening from my own personal experience, but now I'm seeing that it's very real, that the 20-somethings are not staying here. And so demographically, we have an aging population. What's it going to look like in 10 or 15 years if we don't stop that loss of that age group of people? Yeah, that answers your question.
Anybody else? Bren?
I'll just say thank you for the resume and for the extensive references. We usually ask for 3, and you provided 6, so thank you.
And I'll go back to my question about the importance of architecture and community fit, if you will, and recognizing that energy efficient homes are really what we should be thinking about. Do you want to comment on any of that?
My mind jumps to Cabrini Green in Chicago. I lived in Chicago for 4 years and learned a lot about what happened with that. We have tended as a society to sort of warehouse the poor, and we've learned our lesson on that. Cabrini Green came down some years ago. I really believe in mixed communities. I think there should be, if there's low-income housing, it should be a mix with people who are in the workforce, and I believe that housing should match with what's in the community. It's hard to do when you start using all of your housing as 40B developments because the housing around them aren't. But I'm sure that we can pay attention to that because we don't want to ruin the look of our community. I came back here after 27 years because I love Falmouth, and a lot of it is how it looks. I didn't really appreciate it until I'd left. You know, as a kid, you grow up, you take it all for granted, but I've lived in communities that are really ugly and where people are not really comfortable there, because we are human beings, we are creatures that that need comfortable and attractive surroundings in order to really be happy. So, and as far as the energy efficiency, absolutely, there's no reason not to do that. It's maybe more expensive, but we live in a time where we're very aware of the problems that we've created, burning our natural resources.
Melissa?
Thanks for your application. Just a quick technical question. The amount of time you're available to give, you have three different terms to fill and 3 applicants, and you didn't mention how much time you can actually give to this. You said that you could go to meetings.
Right. When I went to fill the application out, I didn't actually know what the terms were. I plan on being here for a long time.
I'm wondering more per week, per month, how many hours you think you can devote of your life to affordable housing?
I'm not working full-time. I don't intend on working full-time. I know a lot of committee members in Falmouth are retired folks, although there are a lot of working folks, and I believe I have adequate time to devote to do a good job. I wouldn't want to do a poor job. That's not my goal.
Good goal. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to put all names in nomination?
I make a motion that we put all 3 names into nomination, Madam Chair.
That's Human Services.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I think probably the best way to go would be to start with the longest term, which expires on June 30th, 2014. So if someone would like to nominate one of these 3 individuals to fill that term?
I would like to.
Or would you like to put all 3 and then decide the terms? Seems to me it would be a lot easier if we just pick the term and then.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Mr. Ziss for the 3-year term.
It's not 3 years, it's
Or
2.
until 2014.
2014. This is, well, it's 2.5 years.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Mr. Ziss. for the
Is there a
2014
second?
term.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. The term that expires in June of 2013?
Make a
would-
motion that we appoint Eric Zittler for that term.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
And just to point.
And then
If I may, I'd like to nominate Holly.
Holly
Why
Wilson?
isn't her last name Holly? Holly Wilson for the term that expires in June, and hope that you reapply in June for the continued term. No, I don't think so.
No, well.
No. We'll just automatically.
Okay, all those in favor?
Well, perhaps somebody will.
All those in favor say aye.
Second, Madam Chair.
Oh, second, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you all very much. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you for volunteering. Human Services.
Go back to these pages here. These are all the same ones. Okay, next is the Human Services Committee, and we have Dr. Florence Davidson. Are you here tonight? Yes, you are here. Would you like to come to the microphone, please? And tell us about your interest in the committee, why you would like to be a member, what you are going to bring to the committee in terms of your talents and experiences.
Well, I'll start with when I first came to Falmouth. I was a consultant for the public schools way back in the 70s. And I thought it was a really lovely town. We moved here in 1980. And since then, I've been a psychologist in private practice with families and individuals. And I was part of the free clinic when it started. I was one of the people who got it going and insisted on mental health being part of the everybody's profile. So they gave questionnaires, mental health questionnaires to people in the waiting room. And we've always tried to integrate that. But at this point, I understand that the waiting list is 3 months for mental health. So Karen Cardera sent out a letter to the mental health community in town, and I responded that she said she's going to need some volunteers because that we're going to have a rush of people. So I came over and talked to her and signed on as a volunteer, and she asked me if I would like to do this. And I don't really know very much about it, but I said yes. If I can be of help, I would.
Great.
I don't know if she gave you my resume or not, but I didn't understand that I should have.
Well, that's okay. Well, I think when you're a co-founder of the Cape Cod Free Clinic, which is now the Community Health Center, that says a whole lot about your
I
experience.
was on the board for most of the time for the first 6 years and the executive committee, so I was part of that until Karen Bissonette came along and raised all the money and became huge.
Right, exactly. Questions for Dr. Davidson? Melissa?
No, I don't have any questions. It sounds like you're more than qualified, and we thank you very much for your application and look forward to the wonderful things that you're going to do for the people of Falmouth through the Human Services Committee.
What I might do, the only thing I know, is do what I did when I came on with the clinic, which was contact other therapists, which is what Karen's trying to do. Maybe we can get some volunteers, because we had a huge number of volunteers in the beginning. The clinic was amazing. Falmouth is an amazing town, as we all know.
A lot of brain power in town.
Okay. Any other questions? No. What is your pleasure?
I would like to move that we appoint Dr. Davidson to the Human Services Committee in Falmouth for a full term.
30-14.
Till June
20
30th, 2014.
2014.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And thank you very much for your volunteering to do this. It's really an important committee, and you've got to fill big shoes, for sure, with having Brenda Swain be your predecessor. And now we'll ask Brenda to come up. Brenda has applied for the Council on Aging. What a great spot, huh? Brenda?
Yes.
That's not on our agenda.
I did do that, but I didn't know I was going to talk
Oh,
about
you
it.
did?
and
Oh, I'm sorry. I
I'm
saw
here
you
for
there,
something
and I
else.
saw the vacancy, so I thought you were on tonight. Well,
can
in
do
that
that
case,
another
we won't
time.
interview you tonight.
Okay.
We'll bring you back at another time.
Thank you for quitting to
Great.
volunteer for the other
Well, we
committee.
almost got you tonight.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess that concludes our interviews tonight. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a policy discussion by the board. And you might notice on the agendas, sometimes you will see discussion and vote. That means that if the board chooses to vote on a particular agenda item, the opportunity is there to do so because the agenda item is posted as a vote. If the board would come to the conclusion that they might want to vote on an issue and the vote isn't included in the agenda, then the board can't vote. So sometimes you will find on the agenda more and more lately that because of the new open meeting law, that you can't take any action that isn't noticed on the agenda. So I'm not saying that the board will vote on this tonight, they may not. This discussion tonight is a policy discussion by the board. This is not a discussion for public comment tonight. That will come at a later time. But it's on the agenda tonight in the interest of transparency, because the board really wants the public to have some understanding of where the board is on the issue of wind energy and the wind turbine operations. And so we set this discussion tonight because of the articles that are on town meeting a week from tonight. And we wanted the public to have some idea of where the board is, how they may, what their thinking is, and how they may want to respond to the petition articles that are on the agenda. So before we begin the policy discussion, I have a statement that I must read. The presentation of this statement of principles or the release of the statement to the public is not intended as an admission of liability on the part of the town of Falmouth, the Board of Selectmen, or any town officials. The town and the Board of Selectmen reserve all rights to raise whatever defenses are available or may be available in any future litigation or against any present or future claims. So with that in mind, the board has come up with a series of options with regard to the wind turbines that we may want to propose to town meeting. We probably will not take a vote on these tonight, but we will have a discussion. And we have come up with 3 different options. Option 1 is the town will resume operations of Wind 1 in 10 meters per second curtailment mode and will operate with an increased cut-in speed from 12 midnight to 3 a.m. Or Option 2, the town will resume operations of Wind 1 in 10 meters per second curtailment mode and will operate Wind 2 with an increased cut-in speed from 12 midnight to 3 a.m. and will curtail operations at 12 meters per second. Or Option 3, from April 3rd to May 15th, the town will resume operations of Wind 1 in 10 meters per second curtailment mode and will operate Wind 2 at an increased cut-in speed from 12 midnight to 3 a.m. And the second piece to that is, from May 15th to June 30th, in addition to the above, Wind 1 will be shut down from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. So, Kevin.
I think it's important, Madam Chairman, to note that you didn't give the dates. This is for the period from April the 3rd till June the 30th.
Yes. These are the options that to be considered from April 3rd to June 30th of 2012.
Madam Chair, there's a complete preamble here that sort of discusses the rationale that we might be thinking about for imposing one of these options or for voting one of these options. And I don't know if we should discuss that now, or I'd like to say.
You're talking about the eight.
I'm talking about pages 1 and 2 of this document. Page 1, which is a preamble that leads into 8 points that discuss the rationale behind why we would.
Well, why don't I read page 1? You want? Is that what you are asking?
I'm thinking that I think we can at least find consensus on pages 1 and 2 for this document tonight.
Okay.
And
so we're going to start with page 1? Is that what you're suggesting?
That's fine with me, yeah. I just wanted to mention it at least.
Well, just so people know what we're talking about. To ensure that our community has the financial and environmental capacity to provide clean water for this and future generations of Falmouth, the Board of Selectmen has adopted fiscal, energy sustainability, and energy conservation goals. These goals are outlined in our Climate Protection Action Plan and 5-year strategic plan, as well as in our financial policies. In response to our goals, your town departments have developed projects and programs. The town sought and received grants to upgrade industrial-scale motors and pumps and equipment throughout our utilities, install solar panels at the Gus Canny Recreation Center, Town Hall, and the Crooked Pond Well site, has modernized street lighting, improved building envelope and HVAC operations throughout the town, and installed wind turbines at the Water Quality and Treatment Facility, among others.
Excuse me, Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may, not that you need to read the whole thing to everyone, but I'm just wondering if we can reach consensus on this before we move forward with the other.
Well, I'd just like to read the next paragraph.
Okay.
We recognize that our community tolerance for wind generators has been tested by both our municipal turbines and several private neighborhood scale and industrial scale turbines throughout our community. The town is prepared to address the negative impacts expressed by residents neighboring our 2 turbines on our facilities. We have embarked on a review of alternatives to mitigate this negative experience. A facilitated review is actively underway, and we ask town meeting, this is what we will say, may say next week, to postpone Articles 23 and 27 to allow the town to continue the process to thoroughly evaluate and to begin to implement these options. And the options I have already read. So, Melissa, you wanted to comment?
I think that the language is clean and tight, and it's a good preamble to the rest of the document.
Comments from the board? Kevin?
I have a comment, Madam Chairman. If I were to make a choice on these options.
Oh, we're back to the options?
Yeah, I mean, we can, do we want to stay on the?
Sure. We want to talk about the options.
Yeah, I mean, I think the rest is just boilerplate information that everybody knows, just facts as we move forward. And I think we need to devote our time to the options. If I were to consider one of these options, I think I would like to adapt one of them a little bit differently, a bit close to it. And my consideration would be the option number 3, from April 3rd to May the 15th, the town will resume operations of Wind 1 in 10 meters per second curtailment mode, and will operate Wind 2 at an increased cut-in speed from 12 midnight to 3 a.m. And then from May 15th to June 30, in addition to the above, Wind 1 and Wind 2 will be shut down from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. That's only during that period of time. So my suggestion is that during that period of time, that until we find out the full health effects, whether or not the noise levels are tolerable, whether in fact we work to build mitigation options or options forward, we would provide a window for folks to be able to sleep with their windows open in the warmer weather from at least that period. Again, this is only through June the 30th, so May 15th to June 30th for both wind turbines.
I think it's important to say, too, that in the next paragraph, that on or about April 12th, 2012, the Consensus Building Institute, a neutral facilitator, DNV, which is a consulting firm, and Ascentec, the town's technical consultants, will present their review and findings to the community and stakeholders on their assessments related to a number of the mitigation options.
And if I may, part of these options that were read, you neglected to add the and part of the options, which is and part for, it says other strategies may develop upon review of CBI, DNV, and Ascentec reports, which of course would happen in October. And
I'm not sure people understood what you said.
It's okay, I'm reading this. My question is, though, one of our goals for suggesting this is that we actually generate enough revenue so that we can meet the town's short-term financial responsibilities. And I'm wondering what the arithmetic is with this option 3. It was originally posited that it would just be Wind 1 shut down from 11 to 5, and actually we haven't been receiving many comments about Wind 2, and I'm wondering, A, is that warranted, and B, can we actually still make the bills? Can we generate enough revenue still with shutting down Wind 1 from 11 to 5?
Well, I think that's a good question to ask, because I don't think we have that information on the costs related to Wind 2 being shut down from 11 to 5.
Yeah.
And it would be appropriate, I think, to get that. So I think you raised a good question.
Yeah, I think we need to know that before we go any further with this.
Brent?
One of the things I'd like to get some more information about is the possibility of curtailment based on wind direction. I think one of the things that I recall from the public sessions we had last year was that one of the neighbors mentioned that when the wind is blowing away from their house and towards the turbine as opposed to from the turbine towards their house, the noise is non-existent or is significantly lower. And obviously, if you can visualize a map, that winds from the southwest or from the south are going to blow completely away from the neighbors, off in a direction towards the industrial park and in towards other uninhabited sections. And the nearest houses in that direction are considerably further off, I think well over a half mile, if not further. And I'm hoping that we have this kind of historical data over the past year or so, that perhaps we can look at the numbers from that perspective, because if it's possible, for example, to operate the turbine more when the wind is blowing away from these homes and towards the turbines, then we may actually see, better revenue than just a blanket hourly sort of shutdown. Because I mean, in my mind, and the perspective I have based on what I've heard from the neighbors is that as long as the wind isn't blowing in their direction from the turbine towards their homes, it seems like it's a more tolerable situation. And if the turbines can be running more often while the wind is moving away from their homes and towards the turbines, then that may be sort of one of those win-win scenarios that can help us get through and over this hump, if you will, until we start to resolve some of the issues.
I think there, in the Ascentec report, there were a number of suggestions in there about how the turbine could be modified in many different ways to be able to control itself in certain wind conditions. Heather?
I think the only contribution I have is one, I think reading through the statement of principles is important because it sets the stage for what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're really only talking about a very short period of time from the April town meeting to the fiscal 2013, in which you're building in a time frame for exactly that type of discussion to happen with a group of interested citizens, so that kind of discussion can develop over a short period of time for a more long-term interim plan for fiscal 2013. In terms of the impact for 2012, which is what we're in between now and June 30th, the town has all the revenues in place. You've made all the appropriations. You're basically, you'll be having a lost opportunity cost, but you will not be depriving operations between now and June 30th. Beginning July 1, that's when you need to raise enough revenue to offset your operational costs. And that's what this 3-month window would allow you: a little bit more time to review the mitigation reports that you've received, to work with the community to develop what a short-term 1-year operating plan might look like while you develop a long-range plan. And so I think that we can certainly provide you with the impact, the revenue impact, but in terms of your budget's in place.
And I think it's important to say that we're really, to emphasize, we're only talking, pardon me, April 3rd to June 30th, to the end of this fiscal year.
Well, with that in mind, then I guess I'm wondering, why do we need to put forth any sort of an operation plan at this point? If we've got, we're going to have some, first of all, if the numbers are in place to get us through to June 30, so we don't necessarily need to operate the turbines in order to fund operations until June 30, correct? Is that?
Correct.
Okay. So.
Well, no, yes, correct.
Okay. So the other thing is, on or about April 12th, as noted here, we'll be getting feedback from various consultants, including the Consensus Building Institute, as to how we may proceed going forward. So that gives us April, May, June to develop some sort of an operating plan to address the concern about how we're going to fund fiscal 13 in terms of the debt service, mitigation, etc. Yeah, I guess in that case, I'm wondering what, if any, operations we need to be resuming at this point with Wind 1 and/or Wind 2, if we financially we're fine until June 30.
Kevin?
And I would tend to agree with you, Brent, except we would then have to be more aggressive come July 1. If we have some operation between April the 3rd and June the 30th to meet our energy needs and our budget needs for next year. Keep in mind, this money goes into our energy fund, which rolls us forward. It will enable us to not be as aggressive, give us the leeway to not be as aggressive in operating the turbines to meet our financial needs come July 1st. We'll be putting some money in the bank, and we might have some more flexibility, is what I'm saying. Specifically in those months, when people are outside, when people have their windows open, when people are trying to, do things that normal people do in the summertime. And what we're saying here is it gives this board an opportunity to put a little money aside so that we can be more conservative in our approach moving forward.
Madam Chair, if I may, in addition to what Mr. Murphy just said, Brent, if you look at page 2 of our document, number 2, that gives you some numbers there.
Right.
So,
No, I'm aware of those numbers. I was a
Yeah.
little confused by the need to develop an operating policy for basically now to the end of the fiscal year, but I understand your points, Mr. Murphy.
basically number 2.
I think, Madam Chairman, it would probably be good that we at least read in number 2 into the record, that the plan will be responsive to the town's need to generate enough renewable energy in fiscal 13 to meet the town's annual operating costs, including the costs that may be associated with short-term planning, a total of $624,000, $524,000 debt operating costs, plus an additional $100,000 for services towards our mitigation options.
You know, I didn't bring the warrant, but I know there is it Article 26? That asks to appropriate additional funds for the operation of the turbines until.
That's number 10, which is Article 18, and that is just for the period from, oh, I'm sorry, yes, you're asking a different question than I'm answering.
What? It's
It's
Article,
is it?
it's Article 18, to see if the town will appropriate a sum of money to pay the debt service and the maintenance costs. And that is a total of $37,133. That's for.
It's for fiscal 12.
Right.
Yeah, it's for this year.
For this year.
Right, but in number 10, in order to support the ongoing planning that's going on, we recommend, and we'll get, because this number is new to me, I didn't see this number, we need to give you a recommended budget between April and November to support that. That planning, and you would need to raise that under Article 18 of the annual town meeting budget to continue this process that you're engaged in.
And that's the amount.
That's not the right number, no, that is simply.
It's going to increase.
It will increase that 37,133, but, and I'm sorry, I don't have that right in front of me, but I do know the number.
Okay. Did you want to comment further, Kevin?
No, I just thought it was important that everybody knows that come July 1, we really don't have money to continue our energy needs. We would have to take that money based on our proposed budget from somewhere else. So until we work, or no matter what we work for consensus to build some kind of mitigation options, and work with the consensus building group, I think we have some good plans moving forward. We need some areas here where we can get some breathing room, I guess.
Melissa?
I think I'm comfortable with option 3, but I'd like to find the answer to Brent's question about directionals, because of course we do have the southwest prevailing winds in the summertime, and if that indeed is the case, then perhaps we can add that second paragraph up to option 1. And then that.
Well, if we're going to.
I'm really curious about the directional thing. I don't recall seeing that part in the hundreds of pages of documents that we got on Friday.
It was
Yeah.
addressed, I think in DMV and Ascentec,
Yeah.
the idea of the prevailing winds.
Yeah.
And what could be done, and what Vestas could do in terms of equipment modifications.
Yeah.
That would help, that instead of having any kind of manual adjustment to the turbine, that it could be done automatically.
I'm
I
aware
think
of that.
those were addressed in both of those reports.
Yeah, so I'd like to hear about a little more about the directional bit and, or look into it a little more, and then perhaps add the second paragraph up to option 1. And sort of add the original dates, the April 3rd to May 15th, up to option 1 too.
Can you just summarize that?
Actually, it will end up saying the exact same thing.
Well, option 3, the first paragraph, says the same thing as option 1.
Except for that it has a truncated date time. It's not for the whole time period.
That's true. It has the limit of May 15th.
Yeah.
Is there any
Because
reason-
I guess my question is, what happens in option 3, it sort of reads as if Wind 2 will stop operating on May 15th, the way option 3 is written right now. And option 1 doesn't stop it at May 15th.
No, you gotta read the second paragraph of option 3.
Well, no, that's-
In addition to the above. So what means, in addition to the above, Wind 1 will be shut down.
But May 15th, though, ends Wind 2. Wind 2 is not mentioned from May 15th to June 30th.
Well, I think it could be, I think the intent is that it would go from April 3rd to June 30th, but
It's not
if you
written that
add,
way.
no, it isn't, but the intent is there, but if you add the second paragraph there, it modifies the first paragraph.
Well, then it would have to read, the first paragraph would have
Would
to
have
read
to
from
be
April
April
3rd to June 30th.
Right. And maybe it should say April 3rd to June 30th.
But
You know,
again-
because we're talking about the full period of time
Yeah.
through June 30th,
And-
just this fiscal year.
And as I asked, I'd like to see that modified to include Wind 1 and Wind 2.
For the
shut
second
down
paragraph.
On the second paragraph, so
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about the first paragraph, because we're being very specific now, that both Wind 1 and Wind 2 would be shut down from 11 PM to 5 AM,
Well, then we just need to,
from June 5th to June 30th.
well, then we just need to strike from April 3rd to May 15th for option 3.
We don't, because that's the first part of the motion that would have curtailment.
Then, Kevin, since you modified this, can you read option 3 from the beginning? As to how it should read?
Option 3, from April the 3rd to May the 15th, the town will resume operations for Wind 1 at 10 meters per second curtailment of load, and will operate Wind 2 at an increased cut-in speed from 12 midnight to 3 AM. That is from April the 3rd to May the 15th.
Okay.
From May 15th to June 30, in addition to the above, maybe we should say cut-in speeds and curtailments, Wind 1 and Wind 2 will be shut down from 11 PM to 5 AM.
Okay, well, Wind 2 isn't written in here
I
as
know,
this.
I
I know
just
you're
made that-
adding it. I
that's
realize
right.
you're adding
Yep.
that. I realize you're adding that, but I'm saying that I'd like to know more about, I mean, we have very few complaints about Wind 2, and I don't, I
People's
actually.
windows aren't open right now, I'm trying to.
I know. But with the data coming in from directional speed and from the fact that there are very few complaints about Wind 2 out there, I don't think that there's a reason perhaps to curtail Wind 2 in the evenings, because it is much more isolated than Wind 1.
Well, if we could get further information on that between now and when we take this up again.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments related to the options? Is everyone, we're not voting on it tonight, but I know we have a lot, we have a lot to think about, and I think some of us will want to go back and take a look at those reports. Based on the comments that you have made tonight, you'll want to go back and look at the reports and see whether or not they do outline opportunities to look into some of the concerns that you raised relative to wind direction and other types of changes to the operation of the turbine itself. There are many options that it could adjust to, but I think we need to reread some of those in order to really understand more fully. But here again, remember, we're only talking April 3rd to June 30th, and then July 1. That's that period, that 3-month period. What we will be asking town meeting is to really give us the rest of that time period from April 3rd to June 30th to work on a plan that begins on July 1. That this is only in effect until June 30th. And in working with the stakeholders and others, beginning hopefully on April the 12th, which is the week after town meeting, we begin those discussions, or the CBI people will begin those discussions with the stakeholders to take a look at these mitigation options and what they might be and how, and what they might suggest to the board in terms of additional policies regarding operations. That's pretty much what we all understand to be the program, the timeframes.
And I agree with you, but I'd like to hear from Mr. Brager and Mr. Putnam about their thoughts on these options. I mean, I can't read their minds when we're here at a meeting, so.
No, when you made the modification to, from May 5th on option 3, and you added Win 2, that they're shut down from 11 to 5, I think I agree with that, because I had firsthand knowledge of, that was originally the complaints were that time frame, I think like 12 to 6 or 11 to 5 originally, and then that's when I paid my visits out there and realized the issue. So, and I know Win 2, we know is really not on yet, but I think what's going to happen is, when it does, we're going to have the same issue as we have with Win 1. So I do agree with modifying this option 3 to have Win 1 put right in it, Kevin, like you.
You mean Win 2?
Win 2, Win 1 and 2, yeah. So, in the end, if we take a part of 2 different options and put them together, I don't know, but I do definitely agree with putting Win 2 in there, with Win 1 being shut off from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Brent?
I guess at this point, I'd still like to see some analysis of wind direction and the frequency of the wind from the particular directions. Obviously, in the summertime, the prevailing wind is from the southwest. Right now, obviously, tonight it was coming from the north, and if it for the next several months, if it's coming from the north, then obviously it's the idea of curtailing it based on direction. It would be shut down all the time, and I don't know if that would be acceptable to the other members of this board. Obviously, if the wind behaves, I suppose you could say, and benefits us by coming from the south or the southwest for the next 3 months, then we could potentially have a bonanza of wind that may not adversely affect the neighbors all that much. So I would like to see if there's anything in the historical data that might give us some leeway here.
And there's a lot of information in those reports on wind shear as well, and how the turbine operates and when those conditions are present. I think, and that's something that has to be addressed. I think too that the hours between 11 and 5 certainly are when the ambient noise is reduced to not much at all. So the only sounds that are out there are the sounds from the turbines, if in fact the wind direction is creating that. So I think that's a viable consideration.
I'd like to at least talk, if we're not gonna make any votes on this, how we're gonna move forward, because the town meeting is next week. So we would need to make some kind of decision at our meeting before town meeting on one of these options or something thereabouts. April 3rd is right after town meeting, so.
Yeah, the next day.
Right, so, I mean, not the fact that we can't change. I mean, this board has the ability to, you know, change direction as we move forward, so.
Just a last thought that I think from a general perspective, if we have to operate the turbine, you know, the 11 p.m. to 5 a.m., I'd almost want to see that increase to like 10 to 6 or something. And for both turbines, just because, you know, you want to be able to give people the option of sleeping.
Well,
I mean, and ultimately, if it's operating during the day, at least, and maybe I'm making an assumption here, which isn't a good one, but you know, most of us do sleep in the evening, and if these folks can get a good night's sleep, and you know, during the day their activities may take them away from their homes, such that you know, this sort of mixed operation for a few months may be a workable compromise. You know, 6 hours, I know I don't function well if I haven't had at least 7, so.
Well, I mean, and that's a discussion. That's why I had actually, you know, from 12 to 3 a.m., I don't know who can survive in 3 hours. Yeah. That's why I made the suggestion that we do it from 11 to 5, and if the board is inclined to do it from the 12 to 6, to be able to move forward. Again, this is for a 3-month period. And this is really only from when I see people's windows starting. You know, the weather gets nice from May the 15th to June the 30th, at least in that option.
Okay, so I think we're pretty clear where we are now. Obviously, it will change as more information becomes available. We can look into the questions.
Madam Chairman, can I ask this question?
Sure.
I don't think we're going to, with wind direction, and I think make that decision between now and next week. Maybe this board can work to build some consensus right here on an option, because we do have town meeting next Monday night, and it's really not fair to the public and fair to everybody else. We make that decision 1 hour before town meeting. I think what Brent suggested was a good middle ground there. And meaning we're even erring more with caution with this board, and I'm sure many folks out there would just prefer to have them shut down, or there are many other folks that would have them run full speed. So maybe we can attempt to adopt option 3, which would state from April the 3rd to May the 15th, the town will resume operations of Wind 1 at 10 meters per second curtailment mode, and will operate Wind 2 at an increased cut-in speed from 12 midnight to 3 a.m. from May the 15th to June the 30th. In addition to the above curtailment, in addition to the above cut-in speed and curtailment, both Wind 1 and Wind 2 will be shut down from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So that would be in the form of a motion.
Second.
So it would be from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Heather?
My only request, and it has nothing to do with that, is if the board's prepared to make a motion in general on anything related to town meeting, on number 10, Article 18 of the annual town meeting, the Finance Committee will present a motion requesting I think the Board of Selectmen needs to request an additional $48,000 from the Energy Receipts Reserve Fund for the purpose of supporting this process from April 3 to November 12. That's on average about $7,000 a month, which is not anticipated to be spent in every month, but available to the board should you need it.
And what are the dates again?
That is from April 3 through the November 2012 town meeting.
To the November 2012 town meeting. So it's It's
Well,
37, 133 plus 48?
Correct.
85, 133.
I think we're confusing the situation. We take one motion at a time. One was the option, and then we'll get back to the rest of the
Okay.
Well, but
statement.
That's
But
okay.
Heather wanted to point out the cost for this option. That's all.
I just, no, it was,
Excuse me, please.
it has nothing. No. It wasn't to point out the cost, to make sure that the board makes the motion so that you
To
have the funds
include
to
the
support
cost.
it, correct.
Okay. All right.
So can we vote on the option part?
Option
And then we'll
three.
get back to the,
Okay.
what
Do
Heather's.
you have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Did you want to comment?
Well, I guess I'd still like to see, I mean, obviously, I'd like to see the general direction of where the wind's coming from during this period of the year and what it's gonna look like. I guess one of my concerns is that we talk about operating wind 2 at an increased cut-in speed. So for example, instead of starting
An
at.
increased cut, meaning less speed, not increasing the speed,
No,
increasing the cut.
my understanding,
Okay.
and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but we're suggesting that wind 1 would be operated in a curtailment mode, so any wind that exceeds the 10 meters per second, which I think was 22, 23 miles per hour, it would shut down. And we're suggesting that wind 2 would operate at an increased cut-in speed. And my understanding of that is that if it starts now at 10 miles per hour, the increased cut-in speed would mean it doesn't turn on until the wind hits 15 miles per hour.
It's a lot slower than that.
Am I correct?
Yes.
But that's the general idea, that an increased cut-in speed means it
Right.
doesn't start up until the
Right.
wind is higher than it
Right.
might normally, okay.
Yeah, at those hours in the morning, because the ambient noise is so low at those hours that.
Right,
there's way-
but again, based on testimony that we've received from the neighbors, it wasn't the increased cut-in speed that was so much of an issue as the higher wind speeds, that it's not the ambient noise, it's the concerns about wind pressure and such that are created by higher wind speeds. And so, even though, and you know, I understand why we would do it at an increased cut-in speed because of the ambient noise, but that's not what the neighbors were complaining about. They were complaining about the fact that as the turbine increases in speed, they get more and more uncomfortable. And so I guess my concern is that operating wind 2 in such a mode that it might make people more uncomfortable as opposed to less, because we did receive many fewer complaints when we established the curtailment, the cutoff speed with.
Well, we can get some
Wind
more
1.
information on this, but I think basically we ought to have some sort of an agreement on at least this for now, and as we get the information that you requested, maybe we can make an adjustment to that at the meeting on Saturday. But we don't have the information, I don't think, to make it tonight.
Well,
I don't think. Kevin?
Can I make one other statement? This might make you feel really comfortable, Brent, is why don't we just merge the two of these together? And let me say, operate option 3, and this is in discussion form because we already have a motion on the floor. Option number 3, from April 3rd to June 30, the town will resume operations of Wind 1 at 10 meters per second curtailment mode, and will operate Wind 2 at an increased cut-in speed, period. That would just be it. So in other words, the motion would be that it would go from 11 p.m. to 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. for the entire period with the curtailments and the cut-in speeds, so that there'd be no operation in the nighttime hours.
If I.
Wait a minute, Melissa, I'm not.
throwing that out
but
there.
wait, just to be clear,
Yeah.
I'm not fully understanding what you're saying.
Okay.
So you're rewriting it, so it's not from April 3rd to May 15th, it's April 3rd to June 30th.
Right, and basically what I'm adding is I'm taking out, we're gonna,
From 12 to midnight, 12 midnight to 3 a.m., you're taking that out.
I'm taking that out, and then I'm adding, in addition to the above, curtailment and cut-in, curtailment and cut-in speed Wind 1 and Wind 2 will be shut down from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's for the entire period, from April the 3rd to June the 30th. If that's something more that you can hold on to, I think this board would be better served to be unanimous on this decision.
Heather?
My only comment is that the increased cut-in speed from 12 midnight to 3 a.m. is recommended by our consultant to ensure that when both machines are operating, you do not exceed the 10 dB
Oh, that's right.
Noise bylaw. So that's a recommendation that really has little bearing on, and we know, little bearing on what we know the noise effects are for the neighbors, or at different times than when our consultants have recommended we make those changes, but we still want to be compliant with the noise bylaw.
Because the two together exceed the noise.
And that was going to be my comment.
Thank you.
So, so it probably should stay in there.
That needs to stay in there.
I guess the only concern I have about any of this is that it doesn't take into consideration any potential of, say, operating the turbines if the wind is favorable. If you have a south or southwest wind, then you could potentially continue to operate the turbines because the effects of being in the exhaust stream, if you will, of the turbines, it's moving away from all of the houses versus a northerly wind, which is going to adversely affect folks. We know that will. And I don't know, I guess.
So we want to delay this until Monday?
I'd like to see some more information, and I understand the need for some unanimity amongst the board members, and I understand the concerns about going into town meeting with this issue on the table and the debates that it could ensue and so on, and I think we do need to come up with some sort of a solution so that town meeting has something that they can work with, so that the neighbors have some ideas to what's going to be going on. I think uncertainty is good for nobody in this situation, but I don't think it would hurt us to get this additional information, see how it feeds into the potential numbers and what we could do for options here.
Well, I think what I'm hearing, though, and what I'm reading is that there is general consensus about combining the paragraphs in option 3 and modifying them in some sense. I'm hearing that the dates will go from April 3rd to June 30th, that they will be shut down from 10 a.m. to 6 a.m. And then what happens in between, from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., we're almost there, but that's where we're looking for more information. But basically, I think we agree on the dates, we agree on the 10 to 6, and it's just what comes in between may need a little bit of tweaking based on additional information that we might get. So if we feel we have consensus around that, I think that's good, and that helps us move forward to the next, to our next meeting.
And I think we can modify this based on the wind speed scenario. Again, the vote at town meeting is advisory. It doesn't bind this board. So if we find out the information you're looking at, Brent, we might be able to change based off of the wind speed. But at least we given some parameters here. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It would be shut down. So.
But again, wind direction, I think, might play into that.
That's very true, where it could increase.
Do we need to shut it down at that time of the night if the wind is moving in a favorable direction?
I think the folks there would say that they still hear it, especially when there's no other noise
There's no
out
ambient.
there at that time, at least right now.
Please, we're not taking public comment. You know that. I know. Thanks, Colin. So are we okay with this now? Without a vote, we're ready to move forward, at least putting things together for next week?
We're getting close, yeah.
Do you want to wait till Monday, or would you prefer to vote this in concept tonight? To modify it next Monday if we have some additional information?
I think it would be better to have one final vote than to try to put something out there and modify it.
It's fine.
Okay.
So I'll
Okay with
withdraw
that?
my motion?
Pardon?
I'll withdraw my motion.
Withdraw your motion?
Okay. And plan on finalizing this next Monday evening?
Do you want to wait till Monday, or do you want to do something later in the week?
We have precinct meetings, we have.
I know we have
meetings.
precinct meetings every night this week, so there isn't much of an
There isn't.
opportunity, is there?
The DPW dedication's Thursday.
Right,
As well as precinct meetings.
right. Okay. All right, and we're good to go.
So maybe we could do the rest of this?
Yeah.
I mean, vote the rest of it, including the suggestions that
Oh,
Heather made?
including the statement of principles?
The statement of principles with the exception of the option?
I think we could do that.
And,
The statement of principles, including, and the 8,
Accepting number 8,
except number 8 and number 10, we would
add 48.
add $48,000 to the number, so it would be,
85133.
you want to say that again, Dave?
85133.
85133.
And also, number 10, we have to add at the end of the sentence, town meeting, the words town meeting, to the November 2012 town meeting.
yes. Okay.
So I make a motion.
All right, go ahead.
Make a
your
motion that we accept the,
Endorse it.
endorse the town of Falmouth water treatment facility short-term operation and statement of principles, with one modification, that in number 10, that we increase the amount from 37,133 to 85,133, and item number 8 will be decided at a later date.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Great. Good job. Okay, now we're going to move to the Water Quality Management Committee. And we have here three votes. The first is to authorize funding for the part-time temporary independent contractor for professional technical liaison / public outreach. And this is Article 17, $25,000. Is it pretty clear, or would you, Jerry, would you want to comment on this? To the chair? Eric Turkington, chairman.
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
It's pretty, yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you, Madam Chairman. Are there any questions? I believe we submitted a draft.
You
that
did.
was
You
pre-
submitted
pre-
very,
Prepared by
very
Heather
good
and with input
information.
from the committee, so.
Do you want to,
So I'll move.
excuse me, want to do these separately?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll move that we authorize funding for a part-time temporary independent contractor for professional technical liaison and public outreach at tune of $25,000.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. The second is to authorize the use of AFSI mitigation funds to amend the GHD CWMP contract to provide technical assistance with development and implementation of a permeable reactive barrier request for proposal, which is $3,200.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion?
There-
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Don't let me stop you.
It happens when you
And
provide
the third,
detailed
it's a good thing you came, Eric,
explanations.
is to authorize the town manager to issue a letter to the Division of Marine Fisheries for support of aquaculture survivability experiment in Little Pond.
Hooray, I'll move that.
Second.
Karen.
Just for disclosure purposes, I operate a restaurant that uses oysters, so I just want to make sure.
But
I
you're
disclose
not,
that.
you're not gonna want these oysters.
I know that, but I just want to make sure I disclose that.
You're not gonna want to eat
One of my new
these.
disclosures.
The man of disclosures. Okay, there was a motion and a second?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Very good.
Well, thank you very much.
Now
We-
your
we
work
will be-
continues
we
with a
will be
little money
back.
in your pocket?
We have half a dozen more of these coming along, and we're moving as fast as we can to get them up and operating. As town meeting asked us to put demonstration projects in place and see what alternatives to sewering will work, and that's what we're going to do. Thank you very much for your
Great.
support.
Thank you, Eric. And your committee for all the work you do. Highly tactical information, and believe me, it's all much appreciated by all of us, not just this board, but by the town. So thank you. The next item is to authorize the use of AFSI mitigation funds to pay the wastewater treatment facility groundwater discharge permit appeal, expenses of $50,000.
I was going to make the motion, because it's very clear cut.
It
We've
is.
discussed it before, so Madam Chair, I'm going to make the motion to authorize the use of AFSI mitigation funds to pay wastewater treatment facility groundwater discharge permit appeal expenses in the amount of $50,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Unanimous. Okay, the minutes of March 12th.
Motion to approve, Madam Chairman?
The regular minutes are not the executive.
Right, the regular
I
minutes.
second on the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, March 12th.
Okay, no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. The second are minutes of executive session for March 12th, 2012. Is there a motion?
Yep, I make a motion to approve the minutes of March 12, 2012, executive session. This says also vote to release. Are we supposed to be doing that?
Yes, if that's what it says.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, now we're going to move to our summary of actions. And I'll just read them, and if you want to hold them, please say so. Approve request for special events, the Art Market, Town Hall Square Triangle, June 26 to 8/28/12. The request for the Lions Club Concert Fundraiser, Marina Park Bandshell, July 7th, 2012. Falmouth in the Fall Road Race, November 4th, 2012. Gosnold 5K Run Walk, September 1st, 2012. May Fair, Taft Playground Ball Field, Woods Hole, May 26th, 2012. The MDSC Buddy Walk, Marina Park Bandshell, July 28th, 2012. Run for Your Life, sometimes I feel like I need to. North Falmouth, April 29th, 2012. Run Jack Run, July 4th, 2012. Mr.
Hold,
Murphy.
please, number 9.
Approve the proposed conservation restriction for the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute Quisic Campus. Approve the conservation restriction for Little Pond. A request to waive the building permit fee for the Falmouth Service Center. Now, number 13, this was originally a request to waive the building permit, but apparently they are not interested in waiving the building permit. It's something that they could take into consideration themselves, but they need a vote for the use of the public lands to build the baseball cage. That is what they really need, is a vote from us to.
Expanded parking area.
Yes, to allow the building of the cage on public property and to expand the parking area. Right.
That would have to be reposted, though, because that's not what we have in our agenda.
I think it's all in the actual letter.
It's in the letter.
It's all part of
It
the,
may be in the letter, but it's not on our agenda.
It's up to the board.
Madam Chair, I'd ask that it be reposted in the interest of following the open meeting law.
Mr. Cavosa, would you like
If you'd like to vote it the way it's posted.
to waive the building fee?
Yeah, then in that case, we have a permit. That's what we're looking for. We just want to get started, baseball season starts, and we're looking to build the bat cages for the kids, and we're just looking to get going. And if I had known that's what it was for, we wouldn't have asked to have it waived.
Right. So we could waive the building permit, and that would take all of it into consideration.
Okay. It says in your letter, they would appreciate your consideration with waiving the $175 building permit fee, and I'll make that motion, or we're just gonna let this go, it'll approve anyway if we don't stop it, right?
Yeah.
We're not holding, okay.
Madam Chair?
Mhm.
again, I have concerns. We're talking about allowing the use of public land,
Oh, excuse me.
but that's not what's posted.
Well, the letter says they would like our permission to erect the batting cage structure on the property located at 525 Gifford Street. And that includes the waiving of, and then the waiving of the building permit fee. So the waiving of the building permit fee gives them the permission to erect the batting cage, which is what this is all about. So the only thing that had to really be on our agenda, we don't have to give them permission to do the batting cage. The building department does that.
We have 2 batting cages.
You have 2 batting
And
cages.
we're taking them down. We're gonna build 4 batting cages in another spot, but it's all at the Falmouth Youth Baseball.
And that's
fields,
all has to be done through the building department,
which he gave us the approval
which
to
he
do.
gave them the approval to do.
So right on the permit, it discusses putting these on the property.
Yes, it does. So if you waive the building permit, it includes all the rest of it, right?
But if they require our approval to build this, then that's what needs to be posted on the agenda.
They don't require, they only require the building department to approve it.
Which we have.
Which they have. So we're going to deal with their request, which is to waive the building permit fee, because that is the only thing we approve, is the waiver of the building permit fee.
So, but Falmouth Youth Baseball this is a private nonprofit organization?
Yeah, private nonprofit, that's
Okay,
correct.
and this is town property?
It's town property.
And the letter is, may I see the letter, Madam Chair? We would like your permission to erect a batting cage. So they need our permission to erect a private organization needs our permission to erect a structure on town property. But that is not what's on the agenda, Madam Chair. I'm not trying to be a pain in the butt about this, but the open meeting law has very specific requirements. And if this is what we need to approve, that is what needs to be on the agenda. To say that we're going to waive a building fee and that's going to give them permission to erect a batting cage, that's not on our agenda, and that would technically be a violation of the open meeting law.
Well, let's be clear, if that's a proper request to ask us to build a batting cage, normally you would get that approval from the building commissioner, you would not get it from the Board of Selectmen. Am I correct in that, or?
I'm not certain about that, Madam Chair. I'd have to seek town council's guidance on whether the building commissioner can.
Well, then, if the only
authority.
thing before us tonight is the fee, then you can take up the rest of it with the building commissioner. Town council, if they feel that you have to come back and ask the board to approve erecting the structure from the board, then we can deal with that in another time. But we will take up tonight the waive of the fee, if that's what you wish.
Yeah.
If you wish to have the fee waived.
We just want to get started, we just want to
Right.
play baseball. That's all.
Okay, so you
And-
may or
and-
may not have to come back to
We're-
us, depending upon what the building commissioner says. If we have to approve the erection, I know you wrote the letter requesting our approval, but we may not, it may not be within our purview to approve the building of a batting cage. We don't know that. So what's before us is the fee. So if you want to waive the fee, we can do that. They don't particularly care whether we waive the fee or not, now that it's on.
We were under the impression that we needed your permission to do this. So we were asked to come in front of you. We were told when we were filling out the application that typically when you do something on town property, they waive the fee. So they put on the application, waive the building permit fee.
Oh.
And that's, I think, what kicked us here, which we would have liked to have got started because April 27th is opening day. So we're already under the gun. This is being built with volunteers, with a generous donation from the Falmouth Road Race. They donated $25,000 to Falmouth Youth Baseball to build it, and a bunch of guys are gonna get out there and build it with.
Just one question. The existing cages, where are they? Are they on town property now?
They're on town property.
So
in a-
This
they're
is
being
replacing
removed
them.
And they're just
They're,
going back
they're
on?
being removed. It's gonna be in a different area. We're just taking them from here, and we're putting them over here.
All I can say, is about the open meeting law. I've raised concerns 2 weeks in a row, and it so happened some of the changes had to be made to the agenda because I was correct. So I just want to make sure I'm not stepping on your opinion. So I know what you're saying. I know exactly what it says. So I'm not, far be it for me to,
Not my opinion. I'm
I
just
know, I-
concerned
right.
about
Yeah.
having a decision challenged if
Right.
it's not posted, that's all.
If, it may be over, if we waive the fee this evening, in the next week, if we could take it up, just, if we find out between town council how this has to be worded, and if we could do it next week before, right before
We
town
could,
meeting.
we
and
could
that'll-
do that,
'cause I-
so,
you know,
because
and they
we
only have
can't wait
3
till
weeks.
the 9th, because you want to start on the 7th.
Yeah, because they're gonna
We
have.
need to
open-
start as quick as possible. We've already really held this back 2 weeks. We thought we were gonna waltz in and we were doing a good thing for the town and we were gonna get a building permit and, you know, obviously red tape. I'd love to even see us approve the whole thing and next week, if it's not challenged, we'll put it on the agenda for next week and then vote it again next week. We just wanna get started, so you know what we're up against. The 27th is our opening day.
Madam Chairman, I understand Brent's point, and I think this was a faux pas on how it was posted. It's really not the applicant's fault or how it was posted. I think it was construed that they were really looking for the fee waiver, not looking for the permission. But, you know, you gotta live by the sword and die by the sword. And the sword is that I think we have to take this up next Monday night in the same scenario. But, with all due respect, I was thinking that you folks weren't gonna waive the fee, but if you're willing to get the fee waived, we'll help make the donation towards Falmouth Youth Baseball.
We're happy to
Well,
take that.
the other
we'll take up
suggestion I
both
want to
issues
make,
separately.
when you read the agendas on the weekend, and if you see something like that, if you let us know Friday morning, the chairman has the option to revise the agenda and make it whole for that night, so we don't have to get into this position of not being able to vote on something and have to wait another week to do it. But there's already a revision to tonight's agenda. So the sooner we know that you have an issue, we can clear it up right then and there, and then get this thing done as it's
We were
suggested.
just happy to be on the agenda. We didn't realize
Yeah.
it was really that finite of a thing to be.
All right, well,
I just ask one question on point. If they are replacing the cages that are there now, where there was already evidently a previous board gave permission, does that make
to
a
use
difference?
the public land.
Or do we have to do it all over again? They're replacing something that's already on town property. I know it's not, I don't, that's why
I couldn't give you an opinion on that. I'm just looking at the letter that they provided, and they're asking permission. And so all I'm saying is that what we have on the agenda is a request to waive a building fee. It's not a request to give permission. That's
So can we
my
say,
concern.
can we say this, that Julian looks in this tomorrow, and because it's replacing the current batting cages, might have the authority.
If it's appropriate,
It's
the
appropriate
vote
to go ahead
stands.
and
If it
issue the
isn't, we'll bring it
permit.
back next week.
Otherwise, we put it on the agenda for
Let's-
next Monday night before.
Let's do
town
that.
meeting. Just on another note, while we're talking about this, there are 2 fee waivers tonight. That would be one, and the other would be the Falmouth Service Center, both of which are nonprofits, both of which add to this community a tremendous amount of, to the community itself. They add to the quality of life of the community. One to the children of this community, the other one to children, to folks who are in need in this community. However, this board does need to take up a policy on waiving fees. There have never, the only 2 fees that I know, building fees that were ever waived before this evening were 1, Highfield Hall, number 2, Falmouth Ice Arena, both of which added to the quality of life of folks in this community. But to be fair to the folks in the office, everybody who's a nonprofit wants to get their fee waived. And, you know, there are some folks, these guys would have paid the fee. But the point be told that we probably need to develop a policy moving forward after tonight, so that, you know, I asked on a side note that you know, the town manager, assistant town manager, bring us a policy for this, because I think it would be only fair, not only to the board, but the building department and the folks in the selectman's office. Here's the policy, this is how we go. We can amend the policy, of course, at some point in time, if it's not working.
Madam Chair, just real quick, Falmouth Youth Baseball's been out on that property for over 25 years. I'm sure some of you guys played baseball there, and the batting cages have been there that long. So I'm not sure that we're going to find anything that has a selectmen's vote that says we could use the property, but we've been there for a while, and I don't think we're leaving anytime soon. We've built quite a facility down there. So we would like to do the project, and with your blessing, we'd like to move forward.
How heavy are these things once they build?
The batting cages?
Yeah.
They're actually fabric. We're building a structure, a roof, and then we're putting fabric cages in. The metal cages that we all grew up using when you're pitching to a young fellow that can really hit the ball, or a young lady, the ball ricochets off the metal cage or the piping and hits you in the head. So
I mean, I was wondering if there's a way they can start construction. They're not going to be permanently, they could be up on ties or something, and you get the word, you can drop them, then you permanently put them down. I didn't know.
If you look at the plan, it's a pretty elaborate.
Okay, just a thought.
Okay,
We'll
so
work on that.
do we have a motion?
We're just
well-
gonna, we'd just let the whole go, and we're gonna move forward with the approval. I thought that's what David suggested.
Right,
the
that's
way
what
it
he
is.
suggested.
13.
Okay. And then we're going to check on it. So we have 1 through 8 and 10 through 14, oh, then we have the
14
2012
with a
annual
hold, please,
license.
Madam Chairman.
Oh, 14 is the hold? Okay, so we have 1 through 8 and 10 through 13. Is there a motion to
So
approve
moved.
those?
Motion.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Number 9.
Madam Chairman, just for disclosure purposes, on the whole of an all-alcoholic seasonal liquor license, I make a motion to approve the one-day license at West Falmouth Library.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And the seasonal liquor licenses?
Sure, Madam Chairman, but under the seasonal liquor licenses, season license renewals, I make a disclosure on the holder of an all-alcoholic seasonal liquor license. And if I may, I'd make a motion on some, and then I'm going to recuse myself. Make a motion to approve the all-alcoholic restaurant licenses for the Falmouth Raw Bar and Pier 37 Boathouse, Falmouth Yacht Club, the Beach Rose Inn, and then under, well, let me do those first, Madam Chairman, then I'll go to common victual licenses.
Okay.
So that was the motion.
And a second, is there?
Which one are you doing?
I did all except on those shuckers in the landfill.
I'll, second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Under common victual licenses, make a motion to approve Falmouth Clam Shack, the Tea Room, Beach Rose Inn, Falmouth Yacht Club, Falmouth Raw Bar, Pier 37 Boathouse.
Okay, a second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Under entertainment, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Falmouth Yacht Club, Falmouth Raw Bar, Pier 37 Boathouse, and then automatic amusement devices at the Tea Room.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
So, Madam Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from both the all-alcoholic restaurant licenses, the common victual license, and the entertainment licenses for Shuckers Raw Bar, which happens to be mine and my wife's restaurant, as well as the Landfall Restaurant, which is in close proximity to our restaurant. So I'll recuse myself.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, would you make
Okay,
the
under
motion?
all alcoholic restaurant, I make a motion, we approve the Landfall Restaurant at 2 Luscombe Ave, Shuckers at 91A Water Street, Woods Hole.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay.
Under, I make a motion, Madam Chair, under common victual license, Shuckers, 91A Water Street, Woods Hole.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Madam Chair, under entertainment, Shuckers, 91A Water Street, Woods Hole.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
That's all of them.
That's it.
No, I believe he
Fine.
also abstained from landfall under
that's right.
entertainment.
Well, if we're not
Okay, I'm
sure.
so- Yep, you are correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair, under entertainment, I also make a motion, we approve the Landfall Restaurant, 2 Luscombe Ave, Woods Hole.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. That completes it?
Yep.
Very good. Okay. That
I guess, are
You
we
can-
ready to make a motion to go back into executive session?
Well, we
Or
need
have-
any reports of the town manager's report. I also want to remind everyone that we have a ceremony at the DPW garage on Gifford Street Thursday at 6 PM. We're going to honor the former employees, Bill Owen, George Calise, and Ron Nielsen, with a plaque, and I think some of their family members will be there, and I hope some of the board members can come. And town manager's report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also wanted to affirm that the event you just mentioned, the dedication ceremony for the renaming, that ceremony is open to the public, so we'd be happy to have interested citizens or residents or the public in general attend with us at 6 PM this Thursday, March 29th at the DPW building.
Great.
Also, members of the board, the video upgrades specified for the Board of Selectmen meeting room were primarily completed during the past week, and we anticipate considerably improved video clarity for the meeting that the residents are now watching, as well as future cable TV coverage of selectmen's and other meetings held in this room. Our thanks to our colleagues at Falmouth Community Television for this upgrade. Also, Madam Chair, just from a housekeeping standpoint, on Monday evening of the past week, I was pleased to attend a meeting of the West Falmouth Village Association, and included a presentation, as you know, Madam Chair, since you were there as well, by the Buzzards Bay Coalition on the nitrogen challenges within West Falmouth Harbor. Not quite to the extent that we'd seen in the newspaper article subsequently, but obviously it is, as the board's aware, it's an issue that we continue to share concern on and work on as well. On Wednesday evening, I was invited to speak with and answer questions from the members of the Falmouth Democratic Town Committee at their monthly meeting. This included a discussion of the upcoming annual town meeting and special town meeting warrant articles and other issues of community interest. Then on Thursday evening, I attended a presentation by Dr. Ken Foreman of the Marine Biological Laboratory on the topic, can wood chips be used to clean up our groundwater? Certainly a timely topic. This included a discussion of work with permeable reactive barriers for removing nitrogen from underground water flows. Also, Madam Chair, members of the board, tomorrow evening, Tuesday, March 27th, I'll be attending the Finance Committee meeting, which has been posted to participate in a discussion on remaining annual and special town meeting scheduled items. This includes a few items acted upon and recommended by this board. And that concludes my report, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Any comments or questions? No? Any selectmen?
Just the only thing I'd say, Madam Chairman, is that we do have precinct meetings this week.
Yes.
Maybe we need to check to see, I know I can't make any meeting tomorrow evening. Whether it's
Well, there was a
close
precinct meeting tonight.
Right.
I think it was precinct 3. And then,
Mine is Wednesday, precinct 7, and they separated this year from precinct 7 and 4. They're not meeting jointly this year.
Oh, they're not, okay.
No,
yeah,
so-
tomorrow night, precinct 4 meets.
I'm going to FinCom tomorrow, yeah, and then Wednesday I said is mine, I'll walk
I'll
away
be
at
at that
7.
tomorrow.
And Wednesday is precinct 7 and precinct 8 and 9 Wednesday
I'll
night.
be at 8 and 9 on Wednesday.
You'll be at 8 and 9? Well, then I'll be at 7.
Okay.
And who's going?
I'll be at 7.
And how about Tuesday night?
I'll
What
be
did I
there.
say?
It's FinCom
Okay.
tomorrow, Wednesday,
And
and
then
Thursday is the,
Thursday's precinct
dedication.
1 and 2 and 5 and 6. I'll be at 5 and 6,
5
obviously.
and 6 is my precinct.
I'll go to 1 and 2.
1 and
then.
2? Good. So other than tonight, we will cover all the precinct meetings, which is good.
Madam Chair, if I-
Yes.
just very briefly, I know there's been a long evening, I attended the beach committee meeting. And maybe in a couple more weeks, I'll explain a lot of the things that are coming up, but one of the things I had told him I would go to Julian about was he needed a clarification from Mr. Duffy if the $100,000 that was paid by the casino for enhancement of Falmouth Heights Beach could be used to make the beach handicap accessible and that's one of the things the town manager's looking into. I'll just report that, and in a couple of weeks, I'll have more issues from the beach committee I'll mention, just as a very long list. And in lieu of the time this evening, I'll hold off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other reports? Okay, if not, then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and return to open session for the purposes of collective bargaining by roll call vote, or a motion and a second, please?
And not to come back to...
And not to return to open session.
So moved.
No, we have
Was
the...
it return to executive session?
Yeah, we're returning to executive
Okay, I
session.
thought you said open session.
No,
and not
return to
open
executive session and not return to open
Okay.
session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, by roll call?
Kevin Murphy, aye.
Putnam, aye.
Flynn, aye. Bye.
Cavosa Excavating is a family-owned and operated company specializing in the installation of Title V septic systems. Cavosa Excavating is one of the largest septic system installers on Cape Cod. Whether it's upgrading your current system or installing a whole new system, Cavosa Excavating can do the job. Cavosa Excavating, 508-563-5530.
Nestled in a classic New England setting amid 200-year-old elm trees and charming colonial homes, stately sea captains' homes, and charming Cape Cod salt boxes, Shoreway Acres is a graceful blend of Cape Cod's past and present. Shoreway Acres, proud sponsor of Falmouth Community Television.